Hello, hello, hello. I'm like I'm like a complete mess right now. So a couple of things. One, I like flipped out because like so my computer I've talked about this before. It's not great. And a common issue that I, for whatever reason, have is I will mistakenly open Discord when I don't mean to, instead of Streamlabs, even though the icons on my is it the dashboard? I don't know what it's called. Oh no, it's not the dashboard. It's the dock. Because I'm on a Mac. They don't look the same at all. They're not even close to each other. So the fact that I continue to make the same mistake continues to elude me. I also just fell so hard into my chair. My hand just banged against a cymbal that I haven't. I have a drum set in my office, by the way, because why not? But it has shrunk. It has shrunk the overall space that I would normally have in here, and because of that, I bump into it so much. I hit my hands on that symbol specifically so much. I have no reason to not have moved it by now already. I'll probably do it like right after stream because it hurts so bad. Also, somebody check in on the, if you can, on like the audio levels for me, if you think that it's like the music is too loud or not. I'm trying out a new playlist because when I uploaded the other one to YouTube, they did not like they did not like what I posted. I mean, it's not like I'm looking to get monetized anyway. Like it didn't result in like a channel strike or anything. But like I like to keep things safe when I can. So hopefully this one is fine. I've used this channel before. It's just a different like lo-fi playlist because I'm like every other Twitch streamer that, and I use like a lo-fi playlist in the background. At some point, I'll probably put together some kind of loop for myself that I can play. I haven't made beats in a while, so but at the same time, I'm just like, I can just loop over the same shit for for like an hour long length, and nobody will notice, right? No, at some point I do that. I contemplated maybe doing like a beat making stream at some point. I don't know if anybody would be interested in that because it'd be, to be honest, it would be me being very quiet for however long I make it, and I'll definitely expose myself as being kind of lazy for just looping. Like some people are really good at making dynamic beats or like lo-fi beats or just kind of like a chill vibe, and I envy them for that because that is not my expertise. That's not usually the kind of thing that I make. So the idea of making like an ambient mix that is for streaming this for an extended period of time, because I know I always say like this is going to be a shorter episode than normal, and then it goes on for almost 3 hours. I'm notoriously guilty for this at this point, but just sort of trying to think about how I'm going to do this. Until then, I'm just going to keep trying out lo-fi playlists, trying to mix it up a little bit every now and then because I hate sort of repeating too much. But at the same time, like these mixes, some of them are like 11 hours long, so I can just like scroll to like a random point and it'll be fine. I always link the playlist in the description on YouTube if you watch this in the future. So be sure to check whoever out. You'll notice that there's going to be a commonality with a couple of the channels. It's because they won't strike me or like file a copyright claim, because I guess it's not technically a strike, because again, I'm not monetizing anything I do at this point. I do have a donation link if you'd like, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm doing this mostly for fun because I see everybody else doing it and it seems cool. It seems like chill. So and it also lets me expunge any sort of obsessive like fangirling over whatever I'm hyperfixating on that week. It keeps me from doing it to other people in my life, because I'm sure there are certainly people that are annoyed by how long I can go on about like a topic in my everyday life, but in a podcast format it's like completely acceptable, right? So something that so there's gonna be a couple updates before we get into the meat of the stream. I guess with if you've read the title by this point, we're gonna be ranking fanfiction tropes today, but I wanted to do like a quick sort of catch up, I guess, because this is a longer quote unquote break, I guess, than I'm used to, and it's mostly, at least like for like the middle of the week, because I didn't stream on Wednesday just because I planned to do this then, and I got I got so sick kind of out of the blue, like in the middle of the afternoon. I just felt so bad. I had like a terrible migraine. I was super nauseous, and I'm just like, I was in such a bad mood too. I'm just like, I'm not going to be bringing a good energy to stream later, so I'd rather just cancel for now and then maybe do a makeup stream, which is what this is going to be. Especially because, like, I mean, something that I'm very worried about, which there isn't really a reason for me to, is for the next couple of weeks I'm going to be kind of all over the place schedule wise. I'm busier than usual, which like I'm not mad about. It means that I can have, I mean, obviously it means that like I have things going on in my life, which is nice. Always a refreshing change of pace for somebody who leads a very a very mundane existence. But I'm really excited about what I'm gonna be doing like the next few weeks, because like I have a big like surprise party this weekend for a friend. I have my birthday coming up. I have my anniversary coming up. If you're in chat, babe, hi. We're gonna be traveling out of state, which is gonna be the first time, believe it or not, it's the first time I'm gonna be out of state the entire pandemic, I think. Yeah, I think it has to be, because the last time I traveled, granted it was a pretty big it was a pretty big trip. I was out of the country. I lived in Japan for a decent chunk of 2018 to 2019. I guess it was sort of more so 2019 than 2018, because it was basically the end of the year of like 2018. I think I was like, no, it was either early November or late October. I think it had to be November though, because I don't remember having Halloween there when I did it. But yeah, I haven't traveled the entirety of the pandemic just because I've been scared shitless. I think justifiably so, but like even when like I got my vaccine, I was still hesitant to really do anything, because like I know that like even if you're vaccinated, you can still get it, you can still transmit it. It just keeps you from being hospitalized, which I say just as if that's like a small thing. That's like a big thing. Please get vaccinated if you can. I feel like a lot of people who I know will be probably watching this already have. If it's like my friends, I know that you've already been chill about. I think I'm due for my booster in the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna wait because so first of all, I'm gonna try to push for Pfizer this time because I'm a Moderna mommy, Moderna mommy milkers, and I responded poorly like all 3 times. Like my first shot, my second shot, my booster, I was out of commission for like 2 weeks. I felt like shit the entire time. It was like flu-like symptoms, and I was also sore everywhere. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I was like super irritable the entire time. And then like all my friends were getting Pfizer, and they're just like, oh yeah, I was like tired for a day or 2, but then I was like fine afterwards. I'm just like, fuck you. Where can I get this shit? I think I specifically have to schedule if I'm gonna do Pfizer, which like isn't like a big deal because I got my booster at a like a pop-up clinic from like the National Guard, just because my other appointment would have been like 2 weeks out, and I was just like, no, I'm ready now. Literally inject this shit into my bloodstream, because I'm very anxious, and I'm like constantly scared of getting sick or getting the people around me sick, because I live in a pretty sensitive household when it comes to that, and yeah, I can't really afford to get anybody sick here. I mean, like, ideally you don't get anybody sick anywhere, but yeah, so I'm gonna be traveling out of state. Ironically, it's going to be during PAX East, I think it's that same weekend. I will not be going to PAX East though. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do anything like IRL stream related while I'm there, just because, to be honest, especially when I'm with my partner, but when I travel kind of in general, I like to sort of like only use my phone basically for taking pictures and using Google Maps, because I have no sense of direction. It just helps me be present. I know that's like it feels like such a millennial thing to say, but it's true. Like I think there's like a lot of value to just being able to be fully in the moment with the people around you. It's still nice to take pictures because then I can like remember it that way. And also, like, I am a social media gay a little bit. You wouldn't be able to tell by how little I update on Instagram. I'm honestly tempted to put like my personal Instagram on like the slideshow here instead of using the one specifically for the podcast, because I never update it, because I always forget it exists. Like, it's on my phone. I have no reason not to like post some kind of live message for it, even though nobody follows it, which is like fine. It means that I feel less guilty about never posting a live message on it. I'm more likely to just use my personal account. Same with Twitter. I haven't tweeted off of that account either. So I'll probably just end up putting my my regular socials. Just be warned, if you follow me on Twitter, I retweet a lot of shit, and I also like unapologetically will like thirsty stuff. Like nothing like super not safe for work, because I'm not looking to flood anybody's timeline with oh, this person liked this, which I think is a terrible feature, by the way. It like exposes all of us for being thirsty little hoes on Twitter, and I'm not down for that. I don't like being exposed in that way. I think like somebody, if they want to know that shit about me, they have to go to my profile and look at my likes specifically, because then you asked for it. But if it's somebody just scrolling and like they see it's like, Sean liked another like thirsty selfie, or like mirror butt or something, I guess that counts as like soft, not safe for work. I don't like it a lot. That was just like an example, but I think that's like, that definitely makes me feel bad, because it's just like, oh, I'm intruding on somebody's vibe, and I am part of the problem of somebody not being able to open Twitter in like a waiting room at the doctor's office. Like I've contributed to the same bane of my existence whenever I go to the doctor, where like I'll just open up my phone, well, I'll open up the app like very instinctively. Like my rotation is Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Twitter, Instagram, like without fail, like very obsessively, just because I talk about like wanting to be fully present when I travel or when I'm with specific people, but when I'm not, I'm just trying to be like utilitarian, or I'm doing something that is a generally very anxious task, which for me is going to be going to the doctor, going to the dentist, sort of having to wait in like a crowded waiting room, which I already hated pre-pandemic. I hate it more post-COVID. Well, quote unquote post-COVID. We're still in it, but you know what I mean, like post-outbreak. As if we're in like a zombie apocalypse or something. Those things are already like anxiety inducing. I'd rather just like I will not be present. Do not perceive me when I'm in a waiting room. That's my official stance right now. If you see me in the waiting room at like the doctor's office, no, you didn't. Okay. So also other update. Oh yeah. I guess to summarize it up, because I'm being super ADHD right now, is my stream schedule is going to be kind of quirky, kind of awkward for the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm also going to like an Ellie and AJ concert, which is like iconic, but I have to Google their set list at some point, because I haven't listened to, well, okay, that's not true. I have listened to their newer stuff, but like it's not in my rotation enough to be able to know all of like the words, and I wanted to be like screaming along at a concert because I'm that person. Like Potential Breakup Song and Chemicals React, like, you know, I got you. But when it comes to like the most recent album that they're promoting with this tour specifically, I'm completely lost. So that is my homework for the first week of May, basically. Which again, I'm very excited about, but it will be interrupting my streaming schedule that week. So just know that when I remember to do an intro and I like say what my stream schedule is, or like an outro, I guess I'm more realistically just doing outros now instead of intros, because I do like this just being more of a VOD stream like format at this point instead of like an actual podcast. Even though I still consider it one, I feel like this is something I definitely intentionally want you to be able to listen to pretty passively, as much as I do encourage typing in chat so I can like see what y'all think about X, Y, and Z, because it's always fun. I get it. I've been told I have a very my ex literally said like, I like listening to you talk because it helps me fall asleep, and I'm like, okay, thanks. I don't know how to take that. Are you saying I'm boring? But it's like, no, it's kind of just like you kind of talk nonstop, and that's like a similar effect to a white noise machine. I'm just like, oh, okay, so you're saying I'm annoying. But yeah, so that's update number 1. Update number 2, I want to try out something new for sort of my peripheral social media presence for this, and like nobody's asking me to do this. This is all fully for me. So in case you couldn't tell by how much I was going gaga over the past 2 streams, which were about the Grammys, music is a very big sort of love as far as like my personal identity, I feel like, anyway. Like when I'm not just like listening to music, I like writing songs like in private, and maybe one day I'll be brave enough to release something, but but like until then, it's just something that I consider a pretty core part of my personality. I really want that to be reflected on, I guess, this channel technically, but but it's not something that's going to be maybe directly on here per se. It's at very least like it's not going to take up the entire show. Basically, something that I want to do, which I think today I'll sort of briefly touch on it, because I don't know where I'm going to be at on Monday, but I basically want to do, I don't want to say necessarily a weekly playlist, but it's on YouTube. It's going to be in the playlist format. I just want to sort of key everybody in on like what I listened to over the weekend, and I don't want to do it in like a New Music Friday kind of format, because one, I can't promise I'm going to consistently stream on Fridays, and two, it's just like, I feel like it involves me digesting a lot of new music in a very short span of time, as opposed to giving myself the weekend to sit with something. So I want to do like a Monday music sort of mood playlist, I guess, that I will be having in the playlist section of the channel. I think that's probably what I'm gonna do, but we'll see, because I don't. So my thing, my issue that I'm seeing right now is I guess like probably a better way to do it would be maybe I post like a link to like a Spotify playlist. Like I guess that would be a good use for the for the podcast Instagram account, or at least the podcast Twitter, and that would be probably the most accessible way for y'all to tune in, I guess, if you want. Obviously no pressure. It's just something that like I want to share, and I feel like I listen to so much music that it'd be kind of cool to let people in on maybe what I'm listening to. Maybe you're getting introduced to something you didn't know about. But that being said, I feel like I do listen to a lot of pop, so like it's not like I'm going for super obscure shit all the time. It's gonna be it's gonna be a lot of basic gay shit probably. But no, it's just like, I think that'd be cool. I'm gonna be sort of toying around with how I want to do that. I think at the beginning of streams, just because it's usually kind of quiet, maybe I'll type some in chat, or I'll just like have, if I can figure out chat commands, because I thought I set them up fine, but apparently I did not. If I can figure that out, then like maybe I can put like a playlist command, and then that can be like a weekly link to like Spotify. My thing is that I predominantly use Apple Music, just because I have like my own personal reasons for it. Like I like the audio quality more, because the file format sort of has better fidelity than Spotify, to my knowledge anyway. I also just like how they pay their artists better than Spotify does, and they also don't have like podcasts that spread like vaccine conspiracy shit on their platform and then like refuse to take it down, despite the fact that is literally part of the problem. So that's kind of why I personally use Apple Music more, but like I am on a family Spotify plan, so like I could just log in and post playlists there. But I think I guess, well, so I feel like more people have Spotify than Apple Music. I don't know if that's like a fair conclusion for me to make, but that seems to sort of be the consensus most of the time, is that like it's because it's cheaper, it's a lot more accessible. So I want the playlist to be relatively accessible when they can be. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to just put it on Apple Music. But if you can still access the playlists to see like the names of everything through Apple Music on like maybe like in the browser or something, then like I might just do that, and then you can peruse the titles, I guess, like at your leisure. Spotify ends up having more songs than Apple Music does anyway, because I think it's As far as like quality control is concerned, I think it's more lenient than Apple Music. So because of that, it's it's easier for smaller artists to be able to share their stuff on there. But I'm still figuring out the logistics of this. I don't even have a name for how I want to do this because at first, so I've cycled through like a couple names of how I want to do this. I know for sure it was going to be like Monday mood something, so I like, oh, Monday mood list, like a mood board but like a playlist. It's like, it's oh, what's the name of, I'm trying to think of like the term for when you put things together. I can't think of it right now. My English teachers would be so mad at me. But I was just like, oh yeah, like that could be like a cute thing to do. And then like I found out that there's like that's like an official brand thing. Like that's already being made, and it's like the same exact function as well. It's like they have like the Monday mood list account is like doing essentially the same thing. And like I know they don't have like a patent on the word like Monday mood list. But I don't know, I still got kind of like self-conscious about it because it's just like, no, I want this to be very singular and like very related to me, and I don't feel like Monday mood board like entirely encapsulates it. So I'm still workshopping a name basically. I don't know if I'll have that figured out by the time I put the first one up. But at the very least, I'll talk about, like, at the beginning of Monday streams, what I've been listening to over the weekend is just sort of like a quick update. Again, like, I get that it's not something that's a part of, but currently anyway, like, the format of what I've been doing, but, like, I feel like, I mean, it's so early on that I'm still sorting so much other shit out. I might as well think about what I want to do with this channel, and if I mean, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, nobody's like saying like you can't do this. So I don't know why I'm second guessing myself a little bit with it. But I just think it'd be cool to be able to incorporate at least that part of my personality into the identity of the channel, because music is such a big thing for me. I will say something that so the things I've been listening to, I guess this is going to be like the maiden voyage of whatever this is going to be called. I'm still workshopping it, but something that was brought to my attention today, I completely missed out that that Miley was just like put out a live album where it's like a compilation of like her entire discography, but like sort of in the vein of like the more pop rock influenced sound that she's been doing. So like you have all of the songs off of Bangers, which is like, cultural appropriation of the album, just being reformatted into the style that she's been playing with on her most recent project, Plastic Hearts. I believe that's her most recent project. And it's just like it's just a cool reimagining of all the songs she's put out over her career. On top of the fact that it's just a live album, which like, I love her live vocals. I love her vocals in general, but like you really get the full experience when it's like in the live format, I feel like, because that's where like her best energy, I feel like, is. It's like it's not in the studio, it's like when she's performing live. So because of that, I'm like, I was obviously going to be obsessed with this live album. I still haven't listened to it all the way through because I only found out about it like earlier this afternoon, and that it was brought up to me by the Like a Virgin podcast by Rose Damu and Fran Tirado. I highly recommend them. They're incredibly funny. It's just like a lot of, I mean, it's a very queer podcast, which obviously I was going to be vibing with, but they're just also hilarious, and I completely stand by it. I always look forward to whenever they air a new episode, but that's like completely unrelated. So that's like the biggest thing I can think about that I've been listening to, and like even though I only just started listening to it today, I believe it was like released last weekend, I think. Like it's not like it hasn't been like around for like forever. It's just been around for like the past week. Um, but that's definitely something that I've been like super into. Sorry, I'm like holding in a burp right now. But I imagine this is going to be the thing that's in my rotation the entire weekend because I mean, I just love Miley. I think it has some Hannah Montana stuff on it too. At the very least, it has The Climb, which is like, hello, iconic. It definitely has Disney era stuff in it because I think Party in the USA is also on it. I doubt it has any like actual Hannah Montana songs on it though. I mean, if you count The Climb as like, I just hit my mic with my phone. If you count, I mean, it's a Hannah Montana movie, so I guess that's like a part of it. Let me quick scroll through. It has 7 things on it. Okay, they did talk about that like on the playlist, but there's like some other covers on it too. Like there's like the mashup she did of Edge of 17 with Stevie Nicks. There's also Heart of Glass, which is like a cover that she's had floating around for a while, but I think this is the first time it's in like a live album. Ooh, actually no, that's not entirely true, because I think there's like a live version on the Plastic Hearts Deluxe Edition ? And then obviously she has her iconic, like the most iconic cover, I feel like anyway, which is like Jolene, because I feel like that was I feel like for a lot of people, like you were already familiar with who she was if you grew up around the same time that I did. And you kind of just like knew her for like her Disney shit. I feel like Jolene was like sort of the oh shit moment. Like this is like a very talented artist, incredibly talented vocalist. But that's enough fangirling over Miley. That's you know, that's what I'm definitely going to be listening to this weekend. Also, I know Gracie Abrams puts out a new song tonight. She just started her tour with Olivia Rodrigo. I've only heard snippets of it, but I'm obsessed already. It's coming out at midnight. I will be listening to it because I will be, sadly, I will be up then. Because I throw my sleep schedule out the window when I stream. I mean, my sleep schedule's already not good, but I think people can guess that from me streaming as often as I do. I think it's called, is it Block Me Out? I think it's either Block Me Out or Block You Out. I think it's like Block Me Out though. And then Banks has a new album coming out at midnight as well. I will be listening to that. If I like any of this stuff, it will end up on the playlist. But if it's not on Monday's playlists, like if by the time like I upload it or however I want to do it, if they're not on there, then you can like guess how I felt about them. If I don't feel like they're worth sharing, which is probably kind of passive aggressive, but I mean it is what it is. You know, you don't always vibe with everything that your fave artist puts out. I think I've definitely gotten more of like a mixed reaction so far to Banks's most recent stuff. I did feel a little weird about her releasing sort of a, not a throwaway, but it was like from like the era of her second album. This is going to be her 4th record, but this album was like back when I think it came out when I just started college, so that's a throwback for me. I always feel maybe a little bit weird about an older song ending up on a more recent project, which is why Blue Banisters by Lana Del Rey. I still love that album, but I did have mixed feelings about it when I found out, which maybe doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's just like it completely makes sense that when you're writing as many songs as they do, you know, not everything is going to make a 12 through 14 track album, but like you don't want it to completely go to waste. And eventually, like if you decide that it's finally found its home on a more recent album, then like I support it being able to be back. It just means that like I will sort of feel a little weird about it, which maybe is unfair, but because I do end up normally liking it. Like I said, like I did enjoy Blue Bannisters, but I think I was going to anyway because Lana is my problematic fave. Like it's not a surprise to anyone who knows me. Yeah, we'll see what the playlist looks like by the time it goes up. Probably on Monday. I want it to be kind of a weekly thing, but we'll see if I actually stick to it. Like I said, this is just something I'm trying out. I'm hoping I like it because again, this is something I do want to incorporate into my my online presence, but we'll see. Also, it's not always going to be new music. I'm going to be putting sort of whatever I've been listening to a lot of that week, which I think for sure, if you've seen the either of the Instagram stories I put up for sort of announcing that I was going live tonight, basically everything I put was like from the late 2000s. Like I had like Story of Us by Taylor Swift in one of them, and then a song from the New Moon soundtrack in like another. I don't remember which year that came out, so I could be wrong about it being the late 2000s, but I'm fairly certain I'm right about that. So it's just gonna be it's literally just gonna be whatever the fuck I'm listening to, and you know, nobody has to check it out if they don't want to, but I just wanted to like have it out there. You know what I'm gonna do, just because like the chat window is like pretty empty sort of normally in the beginning, maybe that's like a good place for me to put it, at least until I have the shout out command. So hang on, I'm just gonna quick type it in chat. You're gonna probably hear me clicking and in my keys, so maybe I should just mute myself then if that's gonna be. I feel like it might be distracting, so hang on, just give me 1 sec. Alright, yeah, so I'll just sort of throw that there for now. But yeah, so I've definitely delayed sort of the main thing that I wanted to talk about tonight. Like I said, I just sort of, hang on, I'm adjusting my chair because I'm realizing how much I'm craning my neck to try to reach the mic. I'm trying out a new setup because my Mac just makes so much noise. So I want to try to alleviate with that when I can. We'll see if that actually happens. So for the main topic of tonight, after that very long, like literally 45-minute unrelated discussion, we are talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, for better or for worse, fan fiction. So for context, I definitely wasn't as into fanfiction as much as my friends were. I think I was kind of like a late bloomer when it came to that, because I know my title says like middle school war flashbacks. At least that's the stream title anyway. But I think I probably more got into it in high school, which maybe is like actually kind of more cringe of a time than middle school, because I feel like you have the pass for cringe. I believe anyway in middle school to like sort of sort stuff out. Maybe other people feel kind of differently about it, just because I think a lot of people had probably different middle school experiences than I did. I don't think I was ever really fully bullied during that time, which I definitely know a lot of people can't say. Thanks for the follow, Amit TV. You're from Dave and Julian streams, I think. Wait, I don't know why I'm acting like I'm like having a hard time figuring it out. I know I played like a lot of Pokemon Unite with you in the past, I think, right? Also, I don't know why my my alert didn't play, but hello. Welcome on in. You came in at the right time because I took forever to get to what we're actually talking about. Unless you've been secretly here the whole time. I do the doodles of dudes. Yes, I know. I've seen some of your art in the art section. You're really good. Like I can't relate. I still doodle a lot, but like I definitely could use more practice. But welcome in. I'm glad you're here for the meat of the conversation. We're just talking about fan fiction right now, doing like a little preface into to my history with it, my sordid past. And maybe on a good day I just get that art fever often, lol. Don't be so modest, we know. But do you stream, by the way? I've been lurking for a bit and then I started sketching and then 20 minutes passed. Relatable. I lose track of time whenever I get into either like writing or doodling or especially if I have like a playlist or like a podcast going on in the background. Like I'll be like, oh, I'll try to split up this hour and a half long video I have going on in the background across like the day, and then like it'll feel like it went by in 20 minutes. But yeah, so I think I got into fan fiction probably more in high school than middle school. I do, but I haven't the last few weeks. Can't stream my not safe for work commissions, and I got too many to devote time for the family friendly stuff. Ah, that makes sense. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's understandable. I wish there was a place where like you could like sort of safely do that though. But because it's like a valid art form, like I understand like there's gonna be like the pearl clutching people, which like it's like fair, like I don't want to like shame them too much about it, but at the same time it's just like like it's fine, we all know it happens. Yeah, I think there are a couple, but they're really tiny. Yeah. I haven't looked too much into cartel. I have a problem on all platforms, might tend to have the male gaze on them. You know what though? Like, respect. if it's like, we did sexualize men more. We have to normalize himbos. I don't know what I'm even saying anymore. I think I can tie this into like what we're talking about too. I like caught myself in a lie earlier when I was like, oh, I've never really done like unironic smut. Like any smut, quote unquote, that I would do would be like mostly like nonsensical. There was one where it was like somebody had like a beach fetish, so they took a a tote of sand and spread it on the bed. Like it was just really like goofy shit. But then I was just like, no, that's like not entirely true, because I unlocked a core memory of when I lost a flash drive at in like the cafeteria, because that's where we had study halls, and there was one that had like a ton of really explicit like smut on it. I was just like, oh my god, somebody's gonna find it and they're gonna be able to tell it's me, because like it was the same flash drive that I did all of my essays on. Because like it definitely wasn't smart of me to bring like the same flash drive that has like smut on it to school. Like I really should have invested in a separate one. But I was not smart. I was a very stupid high schooler. Love a good cringe place. Cringe piece. Sorry. Yeah. No. Like, here's the thing. I want to make it clear before I get into it like too much, because I feel like it's definitely gonna come off as me shaming fan fiction or like hating on it. But like I just want to say that like I have like a blend of laughing at, laughing with, and unironically enjoying fanfiction. Because at the end of the day, the medium is so broad and has so many different tones to it, where like sometimes you have to acknowledge how ridiculous it is, but other times there's just like really earnest and very good fanfiction as well. And like not all of it is smut. That's something that like ironically it took me a little bit to figure out, because everybody around me who was writing fan fiction, it was a lot of smut, specifically One Direction smut. That's kind of what got me into writing it at first, was like, okay, this is gonna make me sound like such an asshole, and I completely own up to it, because it was definitely I didn't think it was mean-spirited at the time, but it definitely was, and I do regret it. That's kind of what got me into writing fan fiction sort of seriously in the first place, or semi-seriously, was sort of like spoofs and parodies of some of like the really horny like One Direction, or what were some of the other groups at the time of like those kinds of like British boy bands when they had like the resurgence? I can't even fully remember. I have 5 Seconds of Summer too. I know they're not British. I think they're Australian. But nonsense. It's not a fanfic if you don't cringe a little. I've watched the movies and I'm in the middle of it. I've said out loud, this is fanfiction. BTS. BTS wasn't there at the time I was in high school. I think like that wave of K-pop for me was this is gonna expose how old I am, but it was like Girls' Generation. It was Psy, Gangnam Style. I'm trying to think of like the other groups there. I wasn't like super into K-pop outside of like Girls' Generation, and that was fully because of League of Legends. Because there were like so many dance references. It ended up being like a lot of Ari having dance references to Girls' Generation. I think Syndra did too. She had Run Devil Run as like a dance reference, which was when I found out that song was like written by Kesha, I was like blown away. I didn't realize Kesha was a K-pop girly. Ironically, I've always been more of a girl group person, so I'm having trouble remembering the boy bands. No, same. I'm definitely like a girl group, sort of girly. The Girls' Generation is my shit. Blackpink is my shit. I love Twice. As far as like K-pop groups are concerned. But when it comes to like more English language groups, I think it ended up probably being more of a blend, I think. But I think it's like, as far as K-pop is concerned, it's like predominantly women. But yeah, I think my intro into sort of writing more serious quote unquote fanfiction like was through spoofing what my friends were writing, which was definitely like, I fully acknowledge makes me sound like such a bitch, because it's like making fun of my friends who are like really, who honestly some of them like were really putting in effort for it. Like I know one of my friends, she had like a 400-page like at this point it's a novel about I think it was like about Harry Styles. It was like a self-insert sort of actually no, I don't think it was self-insert technically, because like it's not like a Your Name one, like a YN fanfic. I think she had like an established character, but it was like an author stand-in, but it was like a kind of like a wish fulfillment thing. So I did see it as cringe, and because of that I wanted to make fun of it. But like as I was like getting into more earnest fanfiction, I was just like, okay, I understand the appeal completely. I got into, I hope you know what My Immortal is, because you will become my favorite person if you know what My Immortal is. I got into that pretty late because I had zero internet presence at the time it came out, just because that was the household that I had. Like, I did not have a MySpace. I didn't really get to enjoy no, My Immortal. That's like it was like the Harry Potter one, but but it was like with vampires, and like it's been like a debate for like the past like almost 2 decades of like whether it was like legit fan fiction or not, or if it was like made as a joke, and like also who the true author was. I know that that's like a highly contested sort of debate, especially because like there are some authors of like I'm trying to remember which book series it was. I think, was it Cassandra Clare that that claimed that she wrote My Immortal, and like it became like a whole. Actually, no, I don't think it was Cassandra Clare. I think it was like one of Cassandra Clare's rivals, though, because like she wrote a similar book series to hers, but somebody tried to claim that they were the writer of My Immortal, but it was like almost immediately debunked, and because of that, like we don't know who they are anymore. I think someone in her area did, but it didn't. It was definitely not super credible. I know that like the internet historians were like on that shit, which I mean, tons of respect to our internet detectives. They were doing the Lord's work. These days, it reminded me a lot of the lady who sued Lindsay Ellis. Oh my god, that is like a complete like, that is a trip that I could almost do an entire podcast episode on, but I can't get into that today, because otherwise this will be a tangent that goes on for like 2 hours. Because I have plenty of thoughts about kind of Lindsay Ellis's situation in general, but I don't know how much you know about that like situation with her, and like her sort of leaving the platform. Everything said turn into my tangent. I mean, yeah, but to be fair, I'm also like ADHD as fuck, so I get like derailed by like my baby Lindsay is setting herself free. True. Honestly, she's been in this like space for like a pretty long time. It's not surprising to me that maybe she's like outgrown it. As far as like YouTube is concerned, I will miss having her videos, like her video essays, just because like I mean I like video essays in general. But like especially the really long form ones. Scrolling in middle school where flashbacks got my attention. What's up? Hey, what's up, Dran Pancakes? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, no, we're talking about fanfiction. We were getting into I guess this is kind of more of like my high school cringe was when I started writing. Like I did start reading it technically in middle school, but I started writing it probably my sophomore year of high school. And it came out of like, it started off being ironic and maybe a little bit mean-spirited, but then I ended up being like super into it. I think like the first time I got like really, really into the writing aspect of it, I did like a Hunger Games one, which again is like another thing that will completely date like when I went to high school. You gotta start somewhere. Yeah, totally. But yeah, no, I wrote, I don't remember how many chapters it was, but I got like super into it. It was like from the perspective of like this girl from like the capital, and she's been like watching the Hunger Games for years, but she's like sort of starting to understand, or at least sort of like question why maybe the Hunger Games like aren't okay, and then it like overlaps with sort of the ending of the books. Spoilers if you haven't like read the Hunger Games, is that the revolutionaries sort of take over the capital, and they sort of vote on whether or not they should hold a Hunger Games tournament that's instead going to use capital children and force them to kill each other. I don't think in the books it was ever confirmed if that actually went through. I know they voted yes on it, but then Katniss went like Kukukaka and Sano like killed the president. She's like killed two presidents technically. But so I don't know if it ended up happening after that, but like this story ran with the possibility that it did, and then like she was one of the people that got like sent to like the Hunger Games. Fanfic just sounds like short fan-made books. I mean, it can be really short, or it can be like there are some people that are incredibly dedicated to writing long-form content, and I honestly I love the people that sort of earnestly get into it almost as much as the cringe. I think with the exception of like, I mean, we'll get into some of the tropes that I don't love. There are certain ones that when I was looking for tier lists, because like we're gonna jump into tier lists in a little bit, of sort of popular tropes. I tried to steer away from a couple of the ones, specifically the ones with I know non-con, which is like short for non-consensual. Fanfics has like sort of been it's been a trope that is pretty like debated on whether that's okay, because I mean like it's I mean I personally have like my own I mean I have my own experiences with non-consensual, so my bias is like I'm very against it. I'm against it even in like non-fanfiction contexts, as like a literary device, because personally I think there's like ways that you can like if the core plot isn't centered around that sort of narrative as like a core trauma and a core motivator for your characters, then it just comes off as shock value for me, and for me shock value is not it's not always the most compelling way to make engaging art, if that makes any sense. Like I know other people feel very differently about it. There are people who subscribe to like art should be dangerous, and because of that like you need to sort of be eliciting reactions from people. Sometimes I agree with that, sometimes I don't. I think specifically with non-con, I'm pretty staunchly against it, which is it's a bummer because like it's ruined certain fanfics for me. There, enjoy that follow. Thanks for the follow, Dran Pancakes. I don't know why my my alerts aren't working, but thank you for the follow. Enjoy my unhinged content. I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm streaming today because I was sick yesterday and had to cancel, and I'm not streaming tomorrow because I have a birthday party, like a surprise party I'm a part of. And it just sort of made my weekend kind of like really hectic. So I figured I'd do a makeup stream sort of in between in order to hold it over until next week. I think I'm gonna wind up doing that a lot over the next few weeks because I'm gonna be in Boston coming up pretty soon. My birthday is also coming up. My anniversary is coming up. So I'm just going to be kind of like all over the place. Jay Nicholson showed me some great fanfic avenues, like all the Raylo fanfics. Yeah, no, that's where like I've like sort of learned a lot of sort of my modern context for fanfiction. Specifically, my favorite personally like right now is Trapped on an Island with Josh Hutcherson. I think that's what it's called. And then there's also the Purge one, like One Direction, but like the Purge. Lo-fi, pretty sure it's lo-fi and chaos content is the bread and butter to me. Yeah, no, that is like 100% what this vibe is. It is a lo-fi playlist. I can hang on. Let me put it in chat actually. 1 second. In case y'all want to check it out. But yeah, I think well, so the thing with like the Nile, I mean, it's like it's the crossover fanfic between the Purge and One Direction, and it has like it has Niall being the main love interest, but it's like in the context of him being a bad boy. And I really liked that one until it kind of dipped into non-con territory. So that's an example where like that trope kind of ruins it, like ruins something that I really like for me. But I mean that's like a whole that's like a whole other conversation. That basically I steered away from tier lists that do have that. It kind of became difficult to I got the idea for this based off of I don't think she's called Read with Cindy anymore. I think her channel is just called With Cindy, but she did a video either last year or the year before that was like a similar concept. I tried to find the tier list that she used, but I couldn't. It might, you know what, it might actually be linked in the video itself. I didn't bother checking that before I went live, so maybe it's actually there, but it's okay because I already picked we're gonna go with 2 tier lists. One of them is gonna repeat some of the tropes on the other one, but it's just because like certain tropes are kind of lacking on like both of them that like the other one has. So as far as like the ones that are repeated, I'm just gonna like copy that over to like the next tier list, and like we're not gonna like get into like a full debate, not a debate, but like a full like discussion on it. But for the newer stuff, that's what we'll get into. So the first one we're gonna start with is this one's shorter, so it should be like easier to get into. I wrote a fanfic once that it ended up inventing my own language. I don't know how. That's really cool though. That's something that like when I was writing like non-fanfiction stuff, because I used to write a lot of stories that were just like not that. It's kind of like what ended up pushing me away from my enjoyment of high fantasy was that I put such an emphasis on trying to create like a second language. And like I failed at it, so more power to you for being able to figure that out, because I cannot relate. And so I'm gonna pull up the first fanfiction tropes tier list. So here's the thing. So I can't tell if the size is gonna be okay. I can switch to like a different scene if it's like too difficult to read. That's going to be like a more of like a full screen thing. I just like being able to have chat up when I'm doing stuff, but if it's too small I can switch. Just like sort of let me know, because I didn't really vet this before I like made it, because it's kind of hard to tell within like the editor window. It's definitely hard to see if you're on mobile, and I fully acknowledge that, but I think like kind of whatever I do is going to be difficult to read on mobile. So I kind of just have to make that concession there. If you're on browser, I feel like it should probably be fine. But so I always like naming the different tier. I don't like make the tier list entirely because I don't have like the energy or patience or like honestly even the time to make all of the different things that you put in the tier list, but I do like changing the tier names just to sort of it injects like a little bit more personality into it. But so it was mostly for writing notes to friends in class, like what's the answer to be. I hand them a note like, I mean honestly that's not that's not bad. I definitely wouldn't be able to do that if like, I mean, I couldn't convince my friends to really be interested in anything that I was like kind of into, because they just thought I was kind of a weird kid. But I mean, that's cool if you were able to like sort of get everybody in on it. Yeah, so to just kind of break down the categories a little bit. So for top tier, it's yes, ha 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 ha, yes. If you know the sicko meme, then that's kind of where it is. So that's sort of that's the tier that I'm like complete like trash for. I am like a whore for it, and I just think it's like it might not be top tier for a lot of people. It's definitely not, definitely a lot of the times it's like not considered maybe everybody's favorite, but for me that's like the thing that like instantly pulls me in. I'm like all over it. Also, some of these fanfiction tropes, they apply to some of them are going to apply to like fiction that isn't that is like outside of this discussion. Like for example, enemies to lovers, that's something I'm completely obsessed with no matter what. And that's obviously something that can be used in like other media formats, I guess. Whenever I get busted or got busted and she read the note, it's 2 times as bad as it is I'm just excuse me, passing the note. Yeah, because they're probably just like, what the fuck is this person writing? I think at some point they'll like recognize that it's like definitely like code, they just won't be able to crack it. Yeah, so below yes haha yes, there's real page turner. That one is like, I still consider that top tier. It's just not the one that like I'm a slut for, but it's like, it's still like up there. Like I would still consider this like maybe S tier or A tier, whereas like yes haha yes is like S plus for me. So there's real page turner. There's cute, where it's just like I either enjoy it because it is actually cute, or it's just kind of like a more of like a passing like, oh, she cute or whatever kind of vibe, you know. Like it's not like I'm not like super like crazy over it, but it's definitely not like me hating it. I still acknowledge it as good. There's depends, where it's like it comes down to how it's done, because it has the potential to be not great in the same way that it has the potential to be at the very least passable. That applies to like some of the ones in here. Then there's literally nothing else to read. That's kind of just like, I don't normally like it, but if I'm really bored, then it's like, I guess it's like serviceable. Below that, there's Wattpad is pimping this out to Netflix as we speak. Derogatory. So, like, keeping in mind, there are some stories that Netflix adapts that I do enjoy. It's just not all of them, and this is more focusing on the ones that like, I mean, this is basically like the afters of like fanfiction, or like After We Fell, or because I'm pretty sure that started as fanfiction, to my knowledge. I mean, if they see me cheating on a test, it can range from I like cheese to let's put thumbtacks in her coffee. It's so weird, honestly. I mean, like, thumbtacks in someone's coffee, that I've heard of like thumbtacks on like a chair, but like in someone's coffee, that's like, it's like dangerous, right? Like somebody could like seriously injure themselves with it. Oh yeah, so Wattpad is pimping this out to Netflix is like, it's like trash. Like I don't love it. Like it's, you know, it's bad. I hate it. Just like throw her away. But then Fast Pass, the super hell, which is like, if you know, if you get if you get the supernatural reference for super hell, this is like what I consider like problematic. Like I hate it. Just like I don't even want to perceive it sort of tropes. I tried to alphabetize because it didn't come alphabetized. Again, like please let me know if it's like readable. If it's not, then like I can switch to like a different window. Yeah, I tried to alphabetize it because it by default it didn't come that way. But I at the same time, like I can already tell I probably like fucked it up. Somebody just like texted me about plans. Sorry. So the first one that we're gonna start with is alpha, beta, omega, and like here's the thing with alpha, beta, omega. So let me sort of try to break it down. It's like it's basically the Omegaverse. So it's a kink trope wherein some people have defined biological roles based on a hierarchical system. So there's like alpha, beta, omega. Sometimes it goes like really into it, like in like the Omegaverse, where it's like society is broken up based on these roles, and other times it's more of like sort of a light framework. So it could be like, you know, personality wise, like what's the hierarchical order at this high school, for example. Like it doesn't always have to directly relate to the Omegaverse. So here's the thing. Oh yeah, also I should throw out there that sometimes this does overlap with furries as well, specifically like I mean wolves, kind of. It's like a little self-explanatory. Here's the thing. No matter how much it is explained to me, because it has had to be explained to me so many times, I still don't fully get the Omegaverse. I understand that it's like a kink thing, and I can get sort of the maybe like the personality types for it, but I haven't found like a really good example that I've read from like the Omegaverse of something that like really puts it into perspective for what it is for me. So it's kind of hard for me to rate it, to be perfectly honest. Like I can't say that I hate it because I just don't really fully understand it, I guess. And again, this is something that I like try to really I definitely tried to be a little bit more researched for this, and I'm trying to like diversify maybe my palette now that I'm sort of re-entering the world of fan fiction, sort of lightly though. Like I'm definitely not as into it as I would be in high school, but I'm still sort of remembering what the appeal of it was initially to me. But because of that, I'm trying to diversify my palette, but it's still something that I don't get. And maybe somebody will be like screaming at the screen in the future being like, it's so obvious, like why don't, like what's not clicking? And it's just like, I don't know. So because of that, like controversial opinion, maybe this isn't like good reasoning for it. I kind of have to rank it low, but I can't rank it low enough to where I consider it trash, because again, like I just really don't understand it. I think maybe if I try to translate it to sort of like the where it's like a little bit more allegorical, where it's like, for example, like sitting in like a high school and then it's going that way, where it's like sort of lightly touching on that character dynamic, then maybe I can kind of understand it. But again, within like a fan fiction context though, that's kind of hard for me to imagine, because then I'm just like, is that like sort of is the appeal of that sort of assigning these roles to pre-existing characters, like maybe deciding like, for example, that like that Hermione is a Dami Mommy or something, and she's the Omega, not the Omega, the Alpha. I'm like getting them mixed up. This is how confused I am with it. It's like I can't even keep them straight. I don't know. I think but like again, like I can't say that I hate it because I just don't get it. So I think maybe I probably have to put it in There's Literally Nothing Else to Read, but I just want everybody to know that I feel bad about doing that, because I feel like maybe I just haven't given it a fair shake. As far as Amnesia fic is concerned, I'm gonna be honest. Amnesia is probably one of my least favorite tropes. Like it's my least favorite thing to like put a character through. So I only imagine that I hate it more with like an established character, because then that feels like you're removing the appeal of this character in the first place, which is like knowing their like core personality, right? So like if they don't have that because they have amnesia, then like what's sort of the point of setting them as like either, I think, well, okay, how about this? I think if they're the narrator, I can understand the appeal of doing an amnesia fic. But if it's like another character, like in the story, that's like significant or whatever, I don't know. It's just kind of something that's annoying to me. Obviously, it's not inherently problematic, so because of that, I can't put it in Fast Pass to Super Hell. But I will say I will be putting it in Wattpad is pimping this out to Netflix, because again, I feel like, if I'm being honest, I think amnesia as a plot device is kind of lazy, because it kind of inherently involves backtracking narratively. It overlaps with furries, cringe people leave. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't have any problems with furries. I'm gonna like I'm gonna put that on the table right now. I you know I can't say I'm a completely non-kink shamey person, because there are some that I am probably pretty close-minded about. But when it comes to furries, like the majority of them are like pretty harmless. Um, and it's just sort of like, it doesn't bother people usually, except if it's like, oh, well, was it like Rainforest or whatever, or Jungle Con, where it was like a group of people that were like flinging like shit around like a hotel, and they were like harassing the guests and like employees there. I think that's kind of like the exception to the rule, but like I think that's less to do with like the community itself and more people like getting into like the role-playing aspect of being like an untamed animal, maybe a little bit too heavily. So like otherwise, like I'm kind of just like I don't really have a problem with furries. But I get why people think it's weird and like different, but at the same time it's like, I think the other thing that I kind of have to fully acknowledge is like the overlap between like the queer communities and the furry fandom, or just somebody being a furry in general. Because I know not everybody identifies with like the fandom aspects of it. They just like consider themselves a furry. I think like probably a pretty common misconception of it is just like, oh, like if you're like, for example, if your only introduction to the furry fandom is like the not safe for work content, which I don't think it's like fair to sort of like assume that everybody is there to like fuck animals, or fuck anthros. Like obviously I do not support bestiality, but I don't think the like not safe for work furry stuff is inherently bestiality. Because if they're like pretty clearly anthro, then like yeah, it's not about fucking animals, it's about like fucking Frog and Mr. Toad from like like making like the horny version of like Frog and Mr. Toad from like the children's books. That's probably a terrible example, but I don't know why those are like the first like anthro characters that came to mind when there are like plenty of other within like the main canon. Maybe Big Bird, I don't know. I mean, if you want to get freaky with Big Bird, then like that's up to you. If you want to draw yourself getting freaky with like Big Bird, like I'm not gonna shame you for it, like that's more power to you. But not everybody who's like a furry is there for the sexuality aspects of it. But I do have to acknowledge the overlaps between like the queer community and the furry fandom, because for a lot of people that's like sort of a way that they can express themselves through. I mean, like if it is there is sort of the sexuality aspect with it, then it's just like, hey, maybe it's just like a natural extension of your sexual awakening being Tony the Tiger. If Tony the Tiger is what made you realize that you're gay, then like more power to you. I think a lot of people are scared to admit that, but like live in the truth. Like come on. We have completely lost the plot with this tangent, but I just wanted to go on the record and be like, I don't have anything against furries. Okay, so as far as angst is concerned, when I was going through this earlier and trying to like sort of get maybe like a framework of like where I would place things, because I was sort of like, when I was vetting the tier lists in general to see which ones I'd be okay with bringing to stream, I saw some of the categories anyway, so I was kind of mentally being like, where can I place these? It's also just good time-wise, because I definitely ran into time issues when I was doing like my Grammy predictions video or stream or whatever, where like if I'd done maybe a little bit more prep work, it probably would have taken me less time to categorize everybody. Because that ended up being an almost 3-hour stream, and like I'm really trying not to go into that territory too much. I want to like max out at like maybe 2 hours, but I think I'm already on track for it to like not be the case tonight. That's okay, because this is a makeup stream, and it's sort of to compensate for me not streaming tomorrow. But yeah, But as I was saying though, when I was going through earlier and I saw angst, I was just like, oh my god, I hate angst fics. They're like so annoying. They're usually just like painfully edgy. Like I can't stand it. And then like I kind of sat with it throughout the day and I realized how many angst fics I wrote in high school. Like specifically the Hunger Games one that I'm thinking of. I remember being like so proud of like the first 3 chapters I'd written. And I showed it to my friends and they're just like, oh my god, are you okay? I'm just like, yeah, why? It's just like, well, this character's like very clearly like depressed, like clinically depressed. And like I feel like that voice can only come from a very authentic place. So like, are you okay? And I'm like, huh. I mean, I think I am. And then like I would find out years later that I was not. But but that's a completely different story. But yeah, so I don't know. I end up kind of after like really examining that, which like so I probably should point out though that like, you know, when it comes to like angst fics, it's not always about like an angsty protagonist or whatever that's like kind of like deep and like deep in their sort of like world weariness or whatever. Like angst fit in, as far as like the trope is concerned, it is a little bit more about creating like unrest and unease with like the reader. So it is kind of like a pretty broad umbrella term overall. Angst is like spicy Caesar's pizza. It's great at the moment, but it ages poorly. Only person I ever seen it turn it around was the road of Evangelion. Yeah, I have. Oh my god. I mean, like, I should throw out that like I'm definitely a slut for Evangelion, but I recognize that I get why people think it's annoying, and like some of like the angstier aspects of it are annoying. I mean, here's the thing, like the reality of like angst in fiction in general is like I get why it appeals to like a younger or young adult fan base. Evangelion is deliciously fanficky though. I mean, because like even outside of like the fanfiction that like has been made around it, the core material itself like definitely does feel very fanfiction-y in like certain respects. But like kind of in the best way. Like I don't mean it in like a, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like when fanfiction comes up in conversation or saying that something is fanfiction, like that sounds, for some people that's like a almost like a slur, and I want to make it clear that when I say something is fanficky, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's like Gundam fanfiction almost. I mean, yeah, it definitely wears its like influences on its sleeve, and when something does that, it's hard not to come off as like a little fanficky. But like I think that's what's like really like, that's like a core appeal to fanfiction for me, is just like it's like I think some people are like, fanfiction takes away the creative aspects of writing because it takes away like the concept of world building and creating like independent characters from the core material. And I'm like, I want to give fanfiction more credit than other people probably do, because honestly, like when you're able to take out some of the more tedious parts of writing, specifically like fantasy or sci-fi, for example, like people who are doing fantasy or sci-fi anyway are probably leaning on pre-existing influences anyway. I mean, like Star Wars leaned heavily on Dune, and like whether it wants to admit that it's like kind of fan fiction in that way or not, like it wears its influences on its sleeve. We would not have Star Wars if Dune didn't exist, like point blank period. I feel like modern writing has a nice flavor of fanfiction these days. I see it pretty neutrally. It's when it enters metaverse commentary that I start to draw the line. That's fair. I just think that when you're able to take out the more tedious aspects of fiction, which is going to be, in my opinion, is like the world building aspect of it, or like sort of establishing characters. If people already have that relationship with that character, you can already like attach certain feelings to them, then that's where you get to be like a little bit juicier, like because it gives you the freedom to build on top of something that's already very established. Obviously people are completely capable of entirely fucking it up. But I think when you have like a good foundation, so you're not overthinking that part of it, it really lets you get into certain ideas that like for example, like a lot of tropes, for example, I'm trying to think of one now. There are certain tropes that would not be able to exist in the source material, but because they're able to be explored in fan fiction, that's something that makes it very appealing. I'm waiting to see how the big three anime will enter their fanfiction eras. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by the big three anime? Oh, like the main character having a son who inherits the protagonist role. Boruto. Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, that's... I'm not sure. Huh, I don't know, I have to really sort of sit with that, I think. That's interesting though. Or they build a cinematic universe to keep the reins on the magic system, like Bleach. Yeah, so that's like a thing that like we'll get into, because like something that's on a commonality between both of the tier lists that I have pulled up is canon compliant or canon agnostic, which I think both have their like pros and cons personally when it comes to fan fiction. Yeah, I feel like I've sat on angst for a really long time, which is something that I could also say about my teen years. I think so. In the past, in the past, as in like I mean this morning when I was like first thinking about it, I probably would have put angst in like there's literally nothing else to read. But I think I'm more open to it being in depends or putting it in cute, because to be honest, like I get why it appeals to young writers, and so anything that can get sort of, well, because it's like it has like so many benefits to it, because like if it's letting people channel whatever they're going through in like a creative and constructive way, as well as like being able to reach readers that may be struggling with like the same thing, whether it's like mental illness or like family issues, family problems, or relationship anxieties, or just general anxieties with the world. Anything that helps young people process like a pretty traumatic experience of growing up, I think is always good. On top of the fact that it's like anything that gets people to write, like anything that gets young people to write and be creative in any capacity, I like fully support. So maybe I will put it in cute, because I think if I can sort of get what a young person is going through when I'm reading their fic, or like I can kind of guess what their age is when they're writing it, and then like be able to see their work as they get older. It is kind of nice to see them find better ways over time how to like process their feelings, and sometimes that really does come through like writing, because in some ways it can be like a diary kind of situation. I'm trying to remember which fan fiction I'd written that like essentially was a diary for me. Maybe it wasn't fan fiction, I think it was just like a straight up like, maybe it was like an original story, but I think it had to have been. But I had one that I forget which year of high school it was. I was like really struggling with like sexuality stuff. Like I never really considered myself closeted, but I did have a hard time sort of talking about it a lot of the times because I was still trying to figure it out. And I think a way for me to sort of like pick up the lexicon and pick up sort of a comfortability talking with it, like it did come through fiction, and being able to directly write it and like influence it in that way definitely helped me break down the topics, if it made sense. I don't love admitting that like part of that was like through smut, but but I mean writing gay smut definitely helped me like process like the hornier aspects of that period of someone's life. Yeah, I like to hope those young people will turn into the writer of Hunter x Hunter and be able to write the same plot with some hindsight. Yeah, no, exactly. As far as, okay, so the next one is arranged marriage. So IRL, I don't love arranged marriages personally. I know that there's like a whole debate on that, and I understand there are like cultural contexts that that really shift that discussion quite a bit. I think Indian Matchmaker, for example, definitely opened me up to how people in other cultures perceive it, and how it's like definitely doesn't seem exactly as how we might perceive it in the West, if that makes any sense. I still don't like fully support it, but I am I am learning a little bit more as I get older. So IRL, I don't love it, but in as far as like in fiction is, specifically fan fiction, I'm a little bit more split about it. I think because I think if it like dips into like non-con territory, then like yeah, that's like bad, because like that's like forcing somebody to be like sexually subservient or like sexually willing for like a person that they don't they can't, like you can't consent to, like in like some of these societal contexts. So that part I don't love. But if it can sort of be less of a Stockholm syndrome kind of vibe, but more of like an enemies to lovers vibe, then I'm a little bit more open to it. In like, again, like in a fictional context. So I think I'll probably put it in depends, because I think in some ways, here's the thing, like arranged marriage doesn't always have to be like, oh my god, this rich prince pretty boy or whatever is so obnoxious, and like I can't believe I have to marry this guy, but I have to because of familial responsibility, but then I'll like, as time goes on, I'll grow to fall in love with them, you know, like sometimes that's like, you know, that's like okay, but to read for like a fun thing. But like arranged marriage isn't always like that. I think like in a fan fiction context, it really is just sort of forcibly shipping two characters together a lot of the time that normally would not interact or see each other that way at all. So that's kind of why I put in depends, because sometimes those ships can be kind of interesting. Baby fic, I'm gonna put in, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna put it in Wattpad, is pimping this out to Netflix as we speak. I gotta be honest, I don't love babies. I'm like chill with kids, but when it comes to babies or like pregnancy, I'm kind of like, it's kind of like a lot. It's not really something that interests me. But Emily's favorite part is when they start with something of like making a choice while in distress. Yeah, because like that's not consent, you know. But yeah, it is, yeah, morally gray on the national scale is like a good way to put it. But yeah, baby fics are kind of, here's the thing, I guess I've never read a baby fic, so like, so maybe that's like, it's kind of unfair for me to pass judgment on it so quickly, but like it's just something that doesn't appeal to me at all, you know. Okay, so the next one. Okay, I have a very complicated relationship with Bang or Die. Because here's the thing. It fulfills the same sort of niche, I guess, of like arranged marriage in a fanfiction context where it's really like a way to ship two characters together that that would not be interested in each other at all, but like in kind of like a dire circumstance. So like I understand why it appeals to people, but I feel like I almost accept arranged marriage a little bit more than Bang or Die, because again, that's like, because like at least like arranged marriage leaves sort of room for fluff and like eventually like a non-Stockholm sort of romance budding. Bang or Die is kind of just like, I don't know if I can say, we'll say adult media without plot, but it's like in like a very like R-word context. So because of that, like I'm not really, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Bang or Die. I know some people think it's very funny, and like it isn't inherently perpetuating bad notions of like like non-con in my opinion. Like I don't think it has like the same cultural implications as non-con. But I mean that's like kind of more of like a personal. I know people will like fully disagree with me on that, and that is perfectly understandable. But I'm just like not interested. It's just like I don't know that I dislike it enough to put it in problematic for like fast pass to super hell. We're gonna die unless we have sex right now. I kind of see it being non-con's cousin. That's a good way to put it too. But is it like their less problematic cousin or not? I don't know. I feel like I think the reason why I don't see it as like problematic as non-con, like as you know, as like a general context, even though it definitely does overlap with a lot of those issues, is that at least in Bang or Die, there's like an element of like you suspend your you kind of have to suspend your sense of disbelief. I should probably throw out now, in Bang or Die, the circumstance isn't this person is threatening you, like threatening your life, unless you have sex with them. Like it's not that. It's usually an outside force is compelling the two of you to have sex. It's kind of why I consider it slightly different from non-con, even though again it has lots of overlaps with it. But because like the situations are usually so outlandish, like for example, I know a popular one is Aliens Made Us Do It. But because it's like so outlandish, it's sort of like the suspension of disbelief maybe defangs it a tiny bit. But again, I know certain people feel differently about it. And there are some stories that do grapple with like the non-con aspects of this trope, where it dissects sort of like the feelings of shame that come around that stuff. I'm not really a super fan of. Again, I can handle Bang or Die if it's like just really stupid, because then it really is just like adult media without plot. So in that sense I can kind of excuse it, but yeah, it's because like it enters like the comedy spectrum, like you said, that when it's unrealistic it kind of makes it like less scary, I guess. But there are certainly ones that like do fully go all in on like, oh, this is like fully like assault, which I think is bad. I think if both people are reluctant to do it because of this like really kooky, outlandish scenario, I still don't love it, which is why I will still put it in like sort of the trash tier, but I don't consider it necessarily problematic yet. But we'll see how I feel about it by like the end of the night, because I think I have to probably sit with the concept a bit more. Because I will say the Bang or Die stuff that I have read, it doesn't come off as like as malicious as other non-con does, but I know the existence of like really bad Bang or Die like could probably swing my opinion in the other direction, or not the other direction, but like sort of more in the like I don't love this direction. Body swap, I will put in real page turner, but I will say there are elements of it that I think are I have to put in depends, because I think there I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room of when there are characters that like swap races because the characters are not the same race. I know there a lot of the times it is sort of in a colorblind kind of way where like race isn't a part of the story, but I still have to like acknowledge that like that is, I mean that's like essentially like it can be like blackface in certain situations. I mean like maybe not certain situations, like if the characters that are body swapping are like a white person and like a black person, then like yeah, that is like kind of that is kind of in that territory. So that I want to acknowledge that level of body swap I don't love. But when it's characters that are like on similar fields, or if it's again, if it's like in a really established world that's like sort of colorblind in a sense, I'm a little bit more forgiving of it, but like it's on thin ice. But like I do think that it can be very fun to read. Race and age are the big ones here. Yeah, I think the ones where like, oh my god, I'm thinking of I know John Mulaney did like a sketch on SNL, um, where they were, um, it was like an interview sort of looking back on the history of like a show from the 90s, quote unquote, called Switcheroo, um, where like the dad and the kid swap places, um, but it goes into the territory of like, well, yeah, how would having like sex with your wife, if like you're the kid inside the adult's body, like how would that play out? And it's like the answer is not well, and it just like fully leans into like the uncomfortable nature of that. So that I would consider like, I mean, like, because it's like a comedy sketch, I think that's fine, but like in an unironic take, that's like bad. Freaky Friday wrote the light version of this. Freaky Friday is the blueprint. I don't know, that's not entirely true. I know there's like stuff that predates Freaky Friday, but for me, in like my headcanon, that's the blueprint. Even though like the 70s version maybe, look, I know the 70s version exists and that the Lindsay Lohan one is a remake, but I still consider like the one with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis like the magnum opus. Like for me, like that's when body swap cinema peaked. The magnum opus of trash writing. It's true though. I mean, like, I have to acknowledge like the aspects of the remake of Freaky Friday being like definitely leading into like Orientalism with like the fortune cookie aspect, like the Asians are magic trope. Yeah, like it's definitely aged horribly, but like as a kid, um I didn't really think about it that much. To be fair, if there's any sort of demographic that's allowed to not think about it too much, it's someone who's Asian American or just Asian. So like I'm gonna give it the pass. I shouldn't say that. But I'm personally it's my problematic fave, or one of my many problematic faves. But yeah, body swap, real page turner, I love it. I don't love it as much as like I'm gonna like immediately gravitate towards it, because again, I feel like if I have to weigh you against Freaky Friday, you're not gonna win. Okay, so this kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier, which was canon divergence. Personally, I'm gonna put it pretty high. I know that might be controversial for some people, but here's the thing. I hate how how closed-minded the Harry Potter verse can be, with a lot of aspects that like to be honest, I fully feel like in J.K. Rowling's like established canon for Harry Potter, it does not include trans or non-binary folks. So I feel like that is acceptable canon divergence. Honestly, I fully believe in writing Harry Potter fanfiction that actively spites J.K. Rowling being a fucking bigot. So like, because of that, I know there's other examples too that I'm like fully okay with canon divergence, especially because like again, I feel like we get really good original stories from canon divergence. Like it's almost necessary for new media to exist. So I don't know that I put it in sort of like the guilty pleasure like S+ category, but like it's pretty high up there, to be honest. Should I be going like sort of a left to right kind of ranking for these? I'm heavily considering it. You know, I'll probably do that. I'll do left to right. Let's go. And like I'll try to remember to update it as I go along, but I'm pretty sure right now Hermione is a Muslim black trans woman. When I think canon divergence, I think Bright with Will Smith and orcs. Oh my god. I completely forgot about Bright. Oh my god. That was a lot. Canon divergence has been cool sometimes. 100% agree. Coffee shop AU. Hey, I'm gonna need a refresher of what this is, to be honest. Cause I want to say that like feels like a meet cute thing, but let me see. Coffee shop AU is an alternate universe fanfiction trope that became popular in live journal fandoms. Blah 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 blah. Closely related to bakery AU. Okay, so in most cases, one half of the main pairing is the barista, the other is or becomes their favorite customer. In some stories, the whole cast works at a god. Okay, so that's like a reimagining of like a cat. Okay, you know what? I like that. I think that can be fun. I'll put that above Body Swap. Yeah, I think reimagining the cast in like sort of new contexts, I think can be like I think it's like almost always cute. Especially if it's like if it's in like a setting that is completely removed from the new kind of world you're putting. Honestly, I think all AUs are kind of almost always good for me, or at least like in concept. This feels like something Rugrats All Grown Up did. I mean, I guess that does count kind of as like it does kind of go into that territory because you're reimagining the cast as teenagers, which like you can still be like, oh well, you know, that's just like the sequel format in general. It's just like, no, it really does read like fan fiction, especially when it goes into like who would date who or who has a crush on who. Like that's fully fan fiction. Like you can't deny that that's like entirely fan fiction. So yeah, actually, maybe, dude, will I put it higher than canon? We'll see how I feel about it. But I think pretty much every AU is going to be real page turner or higher. Speaking of which, we have college alternate universe. Here's the thing. I go back and forth on whether I prefer college alternate universe or high school alternate universe. The reason being, I'm kind of in like the same realm that like Twitter is at, where you're like, how come there aren't more shows that are set in college? Why are TV producers like obsessed with watching characters that are like canonically underage, even if the actors aren't, just like bang? And I'm like, I'm kind of I do lean towards, you know, preferring college stories a bit, but at the same time, it's just like I do acknowledge that like I think some people think the argument is like you can like tell the same story in college that you can in like high school. Like some people will be like, why can't Euphoria be set in college? But like I kind of disagree. I feel like there are like unique anxieties that come along with high school that college stories can't encapsulate, or like kind of the other way around as well. Like you're not like, kind of generally speaking, it's not as common for like the characters to have the same level of financial burdens or at the very least anxieties as like a college student would be. I think that's fair to say. Like I know there's like exceptions where like if you're coming from like a poorer family and like you're having to work through high school, like obviously that's like a pretty big exception. But like when I think of like starving college students that are like worried about their like scholarships being taken away, for example, to me that's like an example of something that like you can't replicate in like a college setting. You also can't do dances, like, or at least I don't think you can do dances. I put college AU over high school AU after that last Kingdom Hearts fanfic I read. You're gonna have to DM me that on Discord because I'm very interested in reading that. Oh, and Riverdale. Oh my god, okay, I have so many mixed feelings about Riverdale. Because like I kind of love it, but like in the bad way. But like sometimes in the good way. Because like it really is just fanfic. I know that like Riverdale exists as like a comic, like separate from like the show, but like it is essentially a reinterpretation of the original Archie comics, which in by itself is like, it's literally fanfiction. Riverdale's on the side of high school AU where you fetishize kids, but also the plot is garbage for fun. I think it helps that the character, like the actors they chose for them are visibly high schoolers. Not high schoolers, sorry. They're very visibly like people in their late 20s. Or like their late or mid 20s. Like I think that kind of helps it. That I'm like more forgiving of shows that are like that, unless like the dialogue is like really like creepy about it, or if it's like an underage like an age inappropriate relationship in a show. I hate that trope so much. So because of that, like when age becomes like a part of like the relationship, whether it's romantic or sexual, like any interactions like that, then yeah, I don't love it. But like if it's just like a show where it's just like people in their mid to late 20s just like acting like they're in high school, but like the plots are very much like very mature, then I'm a little bit more forgiving of it. But if you're purposefully like casting actors that do look like they're in high school, or like are on the younger side, and they're more convincingly high school age, then like yeah, I feel pretty uncomfortable about that. Yeah, I'm gonna put I'll put college AU behind like body swap. I think I'd have to read more of like college AUs, because like for me it's like kind of mostly like in concept I like it, because it is addressing the issues with like high school AUs that I have. But I think I've read too many high school alternate universes where granted, okay, so my other thing with like high school AUs for fanfiction is that if the characters like in the source material are canonically adults, I don't care if like the fanfic like makes an effort to tell you that like these are the younger versions of these characters. I will only see Bucky Barnes as like an adult. Like if you set them in high school, I will still see him as a grown-ass man, just with like maybe a backwards hat and a skateboard, and being like, hello fellow kids, kind of situation. That's just me though. I know for some people that like they feel differently, and that might be the deal breaker for high school AU, especially if like it is either leaning into smut territory or is fully smut. But like I feel like high school AUs aren't inherently smut. Okay, so for crack fix, this is also something that I'll have to Google for a little bit more context, because I think I can guess what it is, but okay, so crack can describe fan works in a fundamentally ludicrous premise, or otherwise including a plethora of like unbelievable, incredible, or just plain silly elements. Okay, so that's kind of leaning into like the energy of Bang or Die, but like not specifically limited to talking about like sexuality. Okay, I think honestly I do love I think I will say I'll put crackfic and cute, because like I think the opportunity for like a lol so random kind of vibe might be a little too much for me. But if it's specifically talking about like overly melodramatic content, or just like putting you in like a super like jump the shark kind of situation, I can kind of be into it. So I might put that over angst, because I think that's usually when like the really funny sort of fanfiction, like honestly like the crossover with like One Direction and The Purge, I would consider that a crackfic. And that's really fun to me. So but like it's not enough for me to put it sort of like in an A or S tier. So I'll probably put it in cute, but it's like a high cute, if that makes any sense. I'm like kind of just making up terms at this point. Riverdale and Sabrina. I 100% consider Riverdale like a crackfic. I think Sabrina is a little bit. I consider that a crackfic too, probably. I mean, 2000 comedy ran on this. It really did, honestly. And then like also like I mean Bruno Mars and like Anderson .Paak's music runs on crack too, and like that's why it's fun. No, I feel like Bruno Mars's Crack and Anderson .Paak is like very strong weed. I enjoy that Riverdale and Sabrina were written by the same guy and they're both kind of crack fics. Yeah, no, definitely for sure. I think I like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina kind of for like a different reason than Riverdale, but I'm so because of that I liked Chilling Adventures more at first, but now that I'm sort of back in my Riverdale Renaissance kind of era, I guess, where I'm just consuming it a lot, I am leaning towards maybe liking Riverdale. Chilling Adventures is so awful, I enjoy it. Here's the thing with like Chilling Adventures is like I think season 1 is really, really good, and then after that it really does devolve into crack territory. But I think like let me say specifically the first half of season 1 is really good, which I know technically they consider that season 1 and then part 2 is season 2, but for me I just consider that like one whole season because it was filmed at the same time. Like production wise it is like considered one season. So I did like sort of like the balance of like her like sort of rejecting signing like the Book of the Beast, or is it the Book of the Beast or the Book of the Damned? I think it's the Book of the Damned. I liked that sort of conflict with her, but then like season 2 was like, I think season 2 still had good elements to it, or season 2 or part 2, but then like when it goes into like we have to save my boyfriend from hell, that's like definitely more in crack territory. The Book of the Beast because Lucifer is the beast. Okay, that's what I was like thinking. I'm waiting for them to devolve the casting random LGBT people into the universe like Trixie and Katya for plot relevant reasons. Honestly, like, okay, so maybe this is like an unpopular opinion. I know that there's like a pretty big sort of debate over the quote-unquote wokeification of casting and recasting. My personal opinion about it is like, even if the characters are written very poorly, or if it's like sort of not done in a very good way, ultimately you're still casting people who normally would be overlooked by a lot of casting directors. So I think it's a net good. And I also just like in general like seeing more people of color, more queer people in a show. So because of that, like I know people can think that like race bending is annoying, and I know some people think that like, oh, turning like a white character into like for example like an Asian woman or whatever. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to mind. I know some people are just like, oh well, like the reverse wouldn't be okay, and I'm just like, well, the reverse isn't the same thing. I love the fanfic nature of casting people to play themselves in a fictional universe. Do you mean like in the play within a play kind of like frame format, or do you mean just like my brain is like off right now. I've like the crack fics have like fully melted my brain. I'm like saying Rachel Maddow is canon to the end. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's really funny. I love that oh my god, I love that Lil Nas X, not only was Lil Nas X confirmed to be in the MCU, but he was confirmed to have survived the snap. That's something that's really funny to me. I mean, like, I'm obsessed with that choice. But that's just me. I know some people were like, that's like I know some people were like, that's not like good enough reason to or that it's like kind of like a narrative stretch to say that kind of thing, or like, oh, it was just kind of like a production choice, they weren't like seriously looking into it. I'm just like, no, I'm choosing to believe that that was fully intentional, that in spite of the snap, Lil Nas X was able to pop the fuck off, and that we got Old Town Road to get us through half of like the planet's population disappearing for, what was it, like 5 years? Was it 3 years or 5 years? I don't remember. This exposes me for being like an MCU noob casual fan. We're gonna keep moving, but crossover. That is going all the way to the top. I love crossovers. I think they have the opportunity to be either completely cracked out or honestly just like a really it can be unironically good too. I don't know why the first thing that comes to mind is like Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. I don't know if anybody remembers like the Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents crossovers, because I think they did 2. Those were iconic to me. Same thing with like the That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana. I didn't really like the second one that they did, even though it like included Wizards of Waverly Place, which was my shit growing up. But like That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana was like, that was my MCU. Was like the Disney Channel cinematic universe, the DCCU, if you will. Like I love the idea of them like all existing in like the same world, even though like that soft confirms that wizards exist in like the same world as Hannah Montana, which is kind of weird to me. But I don't know why that's the thing that's weird to me, when like it confirmed that psychics were in the same world too, because like That's So Raven was like in that world as well. So I don't know why that's like the weird jump for me. Like they already confirmed that supernatural stuff was there. Alright, dark fic. I think it depends, but like for the most part, I love sort of I love when things become unnecessarily gritty. I don't love it so much in sort of the trend of like some superhero movies, because I think everybody just wanted to be the Dark Knight for a really long time. I mean, people still want to be the Dark Knight. But I think overall, like I love a tasteful amount of edge. Actually, you know what? I'm almost like, I might put that to the top. I love that we grew up on Sabrina Teenage Witch, that Chilling Adventures reads like a dark... It's literally a dark fic. Yeah, I mean, like... that's like one of my favorite examples of a dark fic, to be honest. Riverdale as well. Kind of like conceptually, like, is like just a dark fic, but... Sneeze, curse you, go to heaven. I know, I love the I love like the fake swears that they have that are like, or that are just like the reverse of like sort of the regular statements that we have. Like I just think that they're really, it's a really cute detail. That's the kind of world building that I enjoy. Even if it's like corny, I appreciate corny world building. Enemies to lovers, that is also going all the way to the top. That is my favorite trope. I know I've been very obnoxious about it on like Dave and Julian's streams before, but it's true. I love enemies to lovers. Obviously it has to be in like the, I'm assuming, in this case, I'm assuming it's in the non-problematic context where like they're not actively like hurting each other in like a way that's like sort of grounded, if that makes any sense. Like I'm thinking of like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of vibe. Which maybe some people could argue that's problematic too, but like I just think like sort of in like the if physical violence is involved, it's like almost like cartoonish, or at least it's like very clearly fictional. Like it's not sort of like we're gonna ground it in reality and like this is like someone's abuser sort of learning to love them, because obviously that's gross and problematic, but like I will not, I don't claim that as like an enemies to lovers stan. We don't claim her, we don't know her. Raylo, I think Raylo is a good example. I don't like, I'm not crazy about Raylo as like a ship personally, but like do I hate it? No. I just think there was like here's the thing. I think okay, controversial opinion, I actually liked The Last Jedi, and I think it did set up Raylo a little bit better, but then like it completely lost the plot when like Rise of Skywalker happened. Like I honestly feel like The Last Jedi made the best case for Reylo, and then they just dropped the ball like almost immediately. But yeah, maybe controversial opinion. Oh no, I hate them as a ship. I think they count as fanfic tropes because of how many stories are written with them in mind to conclude a romantic narrative. Yeah, I mean, the internet loves Reylo in the same way they love Zutara. Which, granted, I do love Zutara as well. Like Zuko and Katara. I like them better than like Katang. One, because like Katang is like a stupid ship name in my opinion. But two, I feel like Katara and Zuko had like more chemistry, and again they also like are fully enemies to lovers, so like that's my shit. I think enemies to lovers is the best fanfic trope. Argue with the wall. No, I'm just kidding. Don't even get me started on stuff like that, like Tong. Oh my god, oh god, I can't with Tong. I've changed my mind. That might actually no. You know what? I don't hate it as much as Katang. Like as far as a ship name is concerned, as far as like an actual ship, I mean, I guess they're technically closer in age than like Katang, technically, but again, this is like ignoring the fact that technically Aang is like over 100 years old. I feel like when that kind of thing happens, like it doesn't count as like this person being fully an adult, because like if you're frozen in time, you're not. You know what I mean? I like checking in on my Final Fantasy friends because of Clefairoth. It took me a second to figure out what Clefairoth was, but yes. I don't know why it took me a second. I was just like, what character like starts with CL? And I kept thinking Cleo, and I'm just like, and then that just like makes me think of H2O. I don't know if you watched H2O, like the show with like it was like the Australian show with like the mermaids. No, Cleo. Emma. I love that show. I'm so glad the entirety of it is on YouTube. I was like binging it the other day. It's kind of unhealthy how much I love that show, because it's so bad. And like all of the love interests are like so... none of them do it for me, but like it like immediately dates the show that these are characters that are considered like the hottest kind of boy. I like to think H2O is in the same universe as Power Rangers or something campy like that. It 100% would be in the same universe as Power Rangers. I'm trying to think what other universe it would also take place in. Like if we're looking at like the unhinged cinematic universe of like bad CG. What other show has really bad CG? You know what? I'm gonna put it in the same world as Warehouse 13 as well. Is it Warehouse 13? Is that the name of the show? Doctor Who? Yes, Doctor Who, 100%. Yeah, it was Warehouse 13. Oh my god, when so true story, I got into Warehouse 13 solely because Mindy from Drake and Josh was like added to the main cast of that show as like a supporting character. So I guess that's not technically main cast. That is 100% the reason I got into that show. I mean, also because it was like kind of like on its cryptid shit, and like I had a very strong cryptid phase in middle school and like late elementary school. I'm not afraid to admit that. I just got into it because of that short red wig. Yes. Oh my god. There was the Bob. Iconic Bob. More iconic than Taylor Swift. Argue with the wall. Okay, well, we're moving on because I have a lot of tropes to get through, and it's like midnight. Established relationship. I also love that. Personally, I think that like the thing that I love about Brooklyn Nine-Nine was that it gives you time with the main couple to be able to explore different aspects of like a relationship, because like I feel like a lot of shows, like the peak like narrative arc these characters can have is gonna be is like gonna be marriage basically. Otherwise they just sort of like, oh, I can't say the C word. Blank tease. They just like tease with like they edge. How about I can say edge on Twitch. They just edge us with like the will they won't they for like 6 seasons. Or New Girl. Yeah. Oh my god. I was I've been like not necessarily evangelizing New Girl as like sort of like a show that you can binge that's like kind of trash, but it's like easy content. But I kind of was a couple weeks ago, where I kept trying to like get my sister to watch it, and then we watched the first couple of episodes together, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this show aged like milk. Like it's like there's so many jokes that would not fly now. I mean, there's like so many like they're not even jokes, a lot of them. Like it's literally just like sexual harassment every 5 minutes, and like that it's like, yeah, no, that's not great. New Girl was my quarantine boyfriend. Same. Oh my, like I'm trying to think of what my quarantine shows were. I think my quarantine shows were New Girl, Bob's Burgers. I rewatched a lot of anime too. I think I fully rewatched Eureka 7 as well. Or Eureka, if we want to get like the really specific pronunciation. It was in a vibe for slightly problematic I was in a vibe for slightly problematic long-running shows. Yeah. Yeah, Eureka 7 was like that show devolved into a fanfic. Okay, but that's why I love it. That's why it's one of my favorites. And it's like one of the few very long animes that I can like comfortably like commit to. Because there are some shows that are like 50 episodes long that I'm not really like gaga about, but some of them I am. Hang on, I'm getting a notification on Twitch. I do not know why. Okay, well, I will deal with that later. Anyway, yeah, so established relationships I like, because then you can sort of like, because I feel like a lot of shows peak with marriage as like the pinnacle of this relationship. So when there's a show that like gets you into like more nuanced topics, like talking about like wage disparity, or like wanting personal space from your partner after moving in together like that, or like talking about children. Like for me, that's like, I know I like went on a tangent earlier saying that like I hate baby fics or pregnancy fics, but like that is something that like I do like when you're able to sort of investigate that a little more. There's definitely a balance. Community really dragged on by kind of blue balling the audience for 6 seasons with false couples. Literally, like I still love Community. Oh my god, yeah, Community was also my my quarantine show, I think. Even though I'd already finished it at that point. Like it wasn't me like being like, okay, like, you know, this was a show I've like avoided, I might as well get into it now. It's like, no, I was like really into Community during college. I think that also kind of dates like my age, I think. Okay, Fairy Tail AU. Okay, so I will put it, I know I said I was going to put all of like the AUs like pretty high up, but Fairy Tail I think I'm going to put in just cute. Because again, I feel it's really kind of a shame, because like I think fantasy was like fantasy stuff in general was like a really it was a genre that I really loved up through like high school, and then like something sort of like some switch flipped in my brain where I was just like, I can't stand fantasy, give me sci-fi, like only sci-fi. Like I will still play fantasy, like I will still play Final Fantasy, even though they've definitely, I mean, they've kind of notoriously shifted away from fantasy a lot of the time. I think they're sort of back in their fantasy vibe, but like they definitely delved into like steampunk and like just sci-fi in general, but yeah, I don't know. There's something just flipped where I was just like, I'm not like as into it anymore, but that's just kind of me. I've turned into a science fantasy person nowadays. Yeah, like kind of like would you consider a quick poll? Would you consider Star Ocean science fantasy? I think I kind of do. Like the video game series. I consider that like science fantasy. Fake relationship. Oh my god, I will also put fake relationship very high. I will put it behind crossover, but I'm still gonna consider fake relationship pretty high. I think my favorite combination is gonna be fake relationship and enemies to lovers, which definitely means that like, oh yeah, like To All the Boys I've Loved Before, like I ate that shit up. I really shouldn't have, because it's like by no means an amazing movie. Granted, I think the second and third movies are objectively worse, but like the first movie is like the way the first movie ends, I can comfortably pretend that the second and third movies don't happen. So like my headcanon is like it ends after the first movie. They just have like a non-problematic relationship for the rest of high school, and that's it. I need you to be my fit girlfriend to convince my grandma I'm straight. Oh my god, I love that too. Yes, the elves are from space. Okay, I'm glad you agree with me. The actress really worked for that show. Yeah. Or for that movie. Yeah. Yeah, I love To All the Boys. That's like kind of one of my comfort movies. It's definitely like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite rom-com, but it's in my top 10 at least. I'll say that. It's really funny though, because like the rom-coms that I put very high definitely age terribly, because they're from like either the 90s or the 2000s. But I can't help it. Like I really gravitate towards like what we used to refer to as chick flicks, quote unquote. Because I'm like a basic gay. But like, I mean, it's like, here's the thing. I grew up with like predominantly female friends, so those were just kind of the movies that were always around. And like on top of that, I loved them, but like, yeah. Or Easy A's, I want to pretend we had sex so I don't get called a virgin. Yeah, well, cause like didn't like the first, wasn't he like gay? And he was trying to like convince people that he wasn't. That also really dates that movie. I mean, even though like I feel like people still do that, because like the closet is still a thing, sadly. But I think it would have been probably, certain aspects would be perceived a little bit differently. But I love Easy A. There's other aspects of that movie that have also aged poorly, but that is one of my favorite movies of all time. I would literally die for that movie. I was so sad when it got taken off of Netflix, but like I have HBO Max now, so it's fine. Fix it fic. Hang on. This is another one that I'll have to Google because it could mean a couple of things. Okay, fix it fic or a fix fic is a canon that changes something. Oh, sorry, is a fanfic that changes something about the canon that the fan writing the fic wasn't happy with. This can be anything from explaining plot holes or inconsistent characterization to bring a favorite character back from the dead. Oh, okay, you know what? I love Fix It Fix. But again, for the same reason why, I mean, because it's like a canon reset. Like, I will use it for ending a homophobic and transphobic Potterverse. So I consider that Fix It Fic. There was like a second where I was just like, is Fix It as in like a romance trope where like they're like a broken guy and like you like nurse them sort of back to health and like back to health, and you sort of help them find like a more emotionally healthy balance, which like I still think is trash probably if it like leans into like really abusive territory, but like am I still trash for it? Yes. So I would put Fix It Fic pretty high, but it's again for the same reason that like that canon divergence is high because it's like it's despite J.K. Rowling. Oh, that can easily be one of the most innocent of the tropes. Sasuke and Sakura are a toxic couple. I'll rewrite it where Sakura marries Ino. I would read that. Because, like, again, that's enemies to lovers. I hope you can sense a trend. I'm, like, very transparent about my love for that, for that trope. And I think it's gonna stay at the top, probably. Like, as, like, my number one is enemies to lovers. First kiss, First kiss is kind of in the same territory of, like, the first time trope, where it's, like, it's not bad, but, like, does it do anything for me? No. I'll still put it, here's the thing, I'll put first kiss in cute because it can kind of, like, if it has good build up with like mutual pining or like a friends to lovers, then like yeah, first kiss can be like cute. Oh yeah, which leads me to friends to lovers, which is like which is the next trope. Friends to lovers can also go at the top. It can go right behind enemies to lovers, and that is where it will stay. I think as I mean, I don't know if anybody else can speak to a different experience with that. I know I got in like a sort of long conversation with like one of my best friends about it, is that I feel like if you're queer and you have like a high school crush that like you're sort of in the friend zone with for a really long time, you can inherently relate to like wanting the wish fulfillment of friends to lovers. And it's just something that a lot of the time, like we just don't get friends to lovers. That it feels like that. I feel like that's like not something that happens in the gay community, unless you mean like friends, quote unquote, like Twitter gays have friends, but quote unquote, but like they're all just like fucking with each other. I don't know if that's a controversial take. First kiss makes me think of the Katy Perry song I Kissed a Girl. Oh my god, there's a really I have such a complicated relationship with that song. I definitely did not know what it was about when it came out, which is really like sad because it's like literally in the title. I think I was just like very deeply indoctrinated into like heteronormativity, I think. Being queer and calculating relationships and enemies to lovers and friends to lovers sounds so complicated in high school. I know, but like that's why I was a mess in high school. But that was like kind of the fun of high school for me. I hope we get the trope lovers to friends. Oh, you mean like kind of like a breakup kind of thing? Or it's not on either of the lists, sadly, but I do think about that trope a lot as well. Like for me, I feel like fanfiction, okay, so this is probably another controversial opinion. For me, fanfiction is sort of for like fun escapism. So I don't really like ones that are like kind of tragic. So like sad ending ones, unless it's like a really thought-provoking ending that like almost feels better than the source material's ending or how it like decided to treat a certain plot arc, I generally will not be into it. So like breakup fics I don't love. I don't think that's what you're like specifically referring to, but I realized I'm gay right as we're getting married. Oh my god, okay. Okay, you know what? I changed my mind. I think I love that trope. Because it's so messy. I think that's my other thing. It's like, so I think you will find that I love fluff, which is why that is also going into real page stream. Actually no, I'll put it in yes, aha, yes. I love fluff in the same way that I love really messy shit. Like they're like my two. There are two wolves inside you. One of them is fluff, and the other one is melodrama. Genfic. So a genfic, to sort of paraphrase it pretty heavily, it's short for general fic. So it's kind of like it's not necessarily family friendly, but it's supposed to be the most accessible one. So that means it usually doesn't have smut, and sometimes it's low conflict, or like there isn't like character death in it. There isn't like tragedy in it. It's just supposed to be really inoffensive overall. Like, it can still have some elements of it, but it's like it's not nearly as like heavily swinging into, like, for example, like sex or smut. So I think I think it's important for genfics to exist because of like young people that are sort of trying to get into fanfiction, but maybe are like intimidated by some of like the more smuttier preconceptions they might have going into the genre can be kind of off-putting. So having something that's like intentionally meant to be accessible, I think is important to have. I don't know that I necessarily like to read it per se, but I will put it in cute just because I think it's important that it exists. General, not generation, got it. I mean, like that. I'm just going off of like the definition that I'm aware of. I guess it's completely possible that it has different meanings that I'm just not aware of, but that's like my knowledge of what a genfic is. High school AU is going to, I think I'm gonna actually put it higher than college AU. Again, I still have like the stipulations that like, okay, in my mind, these characters, if they're canonically adults, are still I will still perceive them as adults, just sort of like not acknowledging that like they're in like a high school setting, like kind of like I don't know if anyone's seen Pen 15, but kind of like that. Like seeing Tony Stark, but like being in like a well, actually, you know what, I guess if anyone has watched Iron Man Armored Adventures growing up, that was my shit. I guess that's kind of like, that counts as a high school AU, right? Because it's reimagining everybody as like a high schooler. I was obsessed with that show growing up. I think it always awakens something in people when they read high school fanfic in a different way from college fan. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely like, when I think of sort of like the core audience for fanfiction, it's like a lot of middle school and high school. So I feel like for high schoolers, it's easier to relate to it if you're able to like sort of put characters you already know into a context that you understand the most because it's your immediate surroundings. And I also think middle schoolers, because I feel like in that age group, correct me if I'm wrong, it's I feel like kind of everybody wants to grow up really fast in middle school because they're ready for that awkward phase to be over. So I think that's why a lot of tween-oriented content does take place in high school. But that's just how I sort of perceive it. I think a good chunk of college AU people also probably like dark academia stories. I love dark academia. Like that was like kind of my core aesthetic for a while. Like not like necessarily in like how I carried like myself like in real life, but when it came to like what I drew or what I played in The Sims, for example, and like sort of the characters I made or the characters I write, I was definitely leaning into dark academia a lot. But it was like sort of in like a course correction kind of way, where like because I know that like I know that they're like the quote-unquote dark academia purists are like going for like, oh, well, we have to be historically accurate, and that means like that women and people of color like aren't going to be like involved in this story because we have to be like historically accurate. And just like, I just think that's stupid, and like kind of like it's racism and misogyny, and honestly, and sometimes queerphobia as well, masked as like being a stickler to the genre. And for myself personally, I think that's just like boring. There were definitely there have always been academics that are in marginalized communities. They've still had to handle hurdles when it comes to being rejected by academia and like being gatekept. But I don't think that that's like a reason to not write stories that involve queer people, people of color, women. Like I just think that's like a lazy way to be like incredibly like problematic. So for myself personally, like a thing that really drew me to dark academia was being able to sort of historically revise in that sense and be like, I'm going to write a dark academia story that like where like the school is predominantly people of color and like everybody's gay in it, and like that's sort of my wish fulfillment in that kind of way. Um, they're kind of like the guys who like Western cowboy accuracy. Oh my god, it's like when people were freaking out over like the gay shit in Power of the Dog. I don't know if you heard about that whole movie controversy, but like that was so dumb. It sucks because like the person that was like being annoying about it had because he had played Harvey Milk in like the biopic, right? Like that's just kind of like further confirms why I don't think straight people should play queer, like canonically queer historical figures. They did it with Harder They Fall too. Same complaints from the same people. Yep. Historical AU. Okay, I will put historical AU above fairy tale AU, but like not necessarily in real page turner. I think the reason why I still accept historical AU is because like it is possible for you to dip into dark academia or Victorian, which are like sort of the aesthetics that I like when I'm sort of rewriting or just like writing like OCs in general. It's like it's gonna be in that context. So I do like being able to do that, especially if it lets me like again sort of revise history in that way to be more inclusive. But is it something I actively flock to? No, not necessarily. Huddle for warmth. Okay. Huddle for warmth for me is that's the safer work and like less problematic version of Bang or Die, I think. And because of that I like it a lot. Also, I feel like some of my cutest experiences with guys has been like a huddle for warmth scenario. Like it'll be like an unexpected sort of like, I don't want to say hookup, but like sometimes it was. So I think huddle for warmth is cute. I will put it in yes, ha ha ha, yes. It doesn't always have to lead to smut either. Like they don't have to fuck just because they're cold. But like, my chair is being so loud right now. I don't know. I just think it's neat. As long as they know hands, that's not safe for work. True. No kissing before marriage. No holding hands before marriage. Okay, so for humor, I think that's like, for me, because again, like I was just like, I like my my fanfiction to be not necessarily low conflict, but definitely not something that's going to depress me. Like for example, I think like the Hamilton AIDS fanfic was like kind of too much for me, especially because it like I mean it fetishized AIDS in a really gross and problematic way, in my opinion. On top of the fact that the author pretended to have AIDS to justify like why they could speak to that specificity, and it turned out to just be like a really bored person that was just, I don't know, just wanted the attention, I guess. It was just bad. Humor is scary broad. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like torn where to put it. I think because I really want that in my fanfiction, I'll probably put in real page turner, but it's kind of light. Because again, like humor is so subjective, and I think people that are genuinely funny that can write good fanfiction, I'll tend to be into their shit. I guess I'll probably, I'll put it in cute because it's kind of on the same level of crackfic, where it's like, I mean, if it's meant to be intentionally funny, then like it kind of depends. But if it's just kind of funny by accident, I think that has its own charm to it. Hurt comfort. Okay, so hurt comfort depends. For me, hang on, I'll put it, actually no, I think it's tied with arranged marriage. So to explain hurt comfort for those who don't know, again, I am paraphrasing it because I am not the best historian. I listen to a lot of pain music, low-key. No, I do too. That's why like I have to stay away from fanfiction that makes me sad, because like I already have like sad music that I like play constantly. I can't have another sad thing like exist in my world, because that already like fully inhabits it lives in my head rent free, like otherwise. Does this enter tragedy porn? That's why I'm putting it in depends. It depends on the level of hurt, and it depends on if the partner is the one doing the hurting, or if this is somebody who's picking up the pieces of a broken relationship. Because I guess it doesn't always have to deal with like a romantic partner, but like the idea of like a hurt comfort fic is basically a character is hurt either emotionally or physically by someone, and then they're sort of like comforted out of that sort of situation, and that can be either from the person who harmed them, or it can be from an outside source. So I think a problematic version of that would be after, because that is just like a terribly emotionally abusive relationship. That is like the quote unquote core appeal for a lot of people is kind of like the back and forth nature of it. And I don't really like that, because it really does fetishize toxicity in my opinion. And I know not everybody reads that and lets that directly impact the relationships. Like, people can like acknowledge that this is fiction and that it's like, this is red flag behavior, and still enjoy sort of the messiness of it, like sort of the train wreck tragedy of that kind of relationship. For me, that doesn't work. I think the kind of like hurt comfort fic, I mean, that I'm okay with is if it's an external force that is helping this person out of this negative circumstance, and it kind of depends on the level of hurt that is inflicted on the character. Because I think if it's like straight up physical abuse, like, no, I'm not going to be into it. And if it's like really manipulative emotional abuse, then like I think that's pretty gross too. But if it's like a breakup, for example, and that's kind of like the level of tragedy, it's like a really messy breakup and this other person comes to pick up the pieces, I think that's fine. But that's kind of why I have to put it in depends, because like it can be really bad. Like, it can really like move into problematic territory. I usually think of Solange's Cranes in the Sky song, like Pain of Adulting and such. Yeah, that can count too. I think usually in hurt comfort, the source of the pain has to be from a character, but I'm sure there are like examples where it's like more abstract, I guess. It's just the idea of it is supposed to be kind of like the push and pull, I guess, of like the hurt versus the comfort, if that makes any sense. Which, because of that does leave room for really toxic sort of abuse narratives and like sort of like fetishizing tragedy, which I don't love. I don't think that's great. In vino veritas, so in truth wine, I think that's like the vague translation of it. I think my boyfriend is gonna fact check me on that literally after this though, but it's basically a drunken confession. I think that's like sort of another example of like the less problematic version of Bang or Die, in the sense that again, it's putting these two characters together that would never admit feelings for each other and forcing them into like sort of a romantic situation, but it doesn't inherently have to be smutty. So because of that, I'll put it in cute. I still think that because it does lead into like, if they hook up, then like obviously that's like not great if they can't consent because of alcohol. But if it's just them like drunkenly confessing their love for each other and then they have to deal with the consequences afterwards, then I'm like, okay, that can be kind of cute. I'll like accept it. I tried to party away my 20s and I don't know what else to do. I wish I could say that, but we are in a pandemic, so I am not partying at all. I am sitting at home, watching New Girl and Bob's Burgers in a Snuggie. Love triangle, oh my god. Okay, a really well-written love triangle. Like, love triangles definitely have like the they have it is a very risky trope to go with. Hang on, I'm actually gonna put it higher. It is very tricky to do a good love triangle because some of them can be annoying. Like, for example, I think like Rue, Jules, and Elliot in Euphoria was a super annoying love triangle. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I didn't know why they did it. It was like unnecessary conflict. It wasn't fun conflict. There weren't any repercussions for it by the end of the season. It was so pointless and stupid. I hated it. But conversely, I thought Maddie, Nate, and Cassie was very fun to watch, even if it wasn't a conventional love triangle, because like Maddie wasn't trying to get back with Nate, or not fully anyway. They kind of hinted at it a tiny bit, but it wasn't like fully committing to it. I remember that the old Fruits Basket did the one that was pretty whatever. Well, it's still sweet in my memory, but kind of not necessary. Yeah, I think love triangles are like... The thing with love triangles is like, it's kind of lazy conflict. But like, that's why I love writing love triangles. Because it's not that hard to like... Because it comes down to just a character study. Like, it's why you can still definitely fuck it up. But if they're really fun characters and the decision is genuinely hard, then I think a love triangle can be really fun. Magic AU, that is, I'll put that above historical AU. Again, I said that I was going to put all of the alternate universes like really high. I guess this is still kind of high, but I don't know. I think because it's like, you know what, maybe I'll put it lower. I think Magic can be kind of tricky to play with, especially if it's not sort of in the I mean, I guess the conceit of a Magic alternate universe is that Magic doesn't exist in the source material. So I think that can be kind of tricky to do. So it's kind of in the same realm as Fairy Tail AU for me, because it almost like jumps the shark a little bit too much for me. Major character death, I'm gonna put it in there's literally nothing else to read. I don't hate it, but again, it's not what I look for in a fanfiction. But if I'm really bored and I want to be sad, then like, yeah, I'll read Hermione dying, I guess. I don't know. Miscommunication. So, if I'm being perfectly honest, I want to put it lower, but I understand how much of a good plot device it can be. I just think it's kind of lazy conflict. So it depends. So I don't want to put it lower. Well, I mean I do, but I don't think I can like in good conscience like put it lower, because I get why it's there. Miscommunication is love triangle's brother. Yeah, I guess that's why it's kind of. I guess why it's kind of why I'm split about it. Magic AU versus Fantasy AU. So I mean, not every fantasy has magic in it, but I'm separating Magic AU and Fairy Tail AU because I think the concept of a fairy tale alternate universe is it uses the framework, so it takes like existing source material, but it puts it in the framework of like an existing fairy tale. So it'd be like putting Sherlock in Goldilocks and Three Bears. Like, I think it can be entertaining, but do I actively search it? I don't know. I'm gonna move First Kiss actually, and maybe Dreadful, like higher. Missing Scenes. Missing Scenes is in the same territory as like a Fix-It fic, but I don't know that it's like as compelling. And like I know it does have overlap. Like for me, the appeal of a Fix-It fic is gonna be addressing maybe the more problematic aspects of the source material, whereas Missing Scenes is sort of like filling the gaps of like something that might not even be necessary. Like maybe like there was enough shorthand like in existence already that this might not be necessary. It's just something that somebody might want to do for fun, or maybe they just didn't think that the author or source material did enough to address a certain thing. I think Missing Scenes can also be appealing in like sort of a prequel sense, but I don't think it's traditionally used that way. So that's why it's just like, I still want to put it high because it's like sort of similar to Fix It Fic. It's just not as high. And I think sometimes it can be fun to see somebody like imagine in like their own voice what sort of happened off screen. It's not always great, but I think it's like okay, mutual pining. Sorry, after this is again one I will put very high. I love mutual pining. I think it's cute. I think unrequited love is also cute, but like it's mostly because like because I'm traumatized as a queer person for having straight crushes in high school and having to live with it, but then like them coming out as bi later in life, so being like, damn it, maybe I should have made a move. Pregnancy fic will also go in. Wattpad is pimping this out to Netflix as we speak. It's the same reason that I don't like baby fics. Like, throw it away. PWP, it's blank without plot. I think honestly, I'm okay with it. I think it can be funny. Here's the thing, I don't read it to like it doesn't do anything for me in that sense. Like, that's not why I go to it. I mostly go to it because I think it's funny. Royalty AU, I'm gonna put that kind of next to historical AU because for me, I would kind of set it in more of a Regency era, so that kind of overlaps with it. Pregnancy fic equals season 5 of Magicians. I've never seen it, so I'll take your word for it. I might have to look into it later, but two characters who want to say they love each other but are too shy. Yes. I mean, like, that's the thing, is like, I guess that kind of qualifies as miscommunication a little bit, but it's like kind of the less annoying version of it. I just think it can be cute. Especially if they're like, it's not just them being shy, it's just them being dumb. Like, they're not reading each other's signals. Like, maybe they're constantly flirting with each other, but they're so stupid that they just don't pick up on it. I think that could be kind of fun. Sex, okay, so sex pollen, that's in the same category as Bang or Die. So for anybody who's sort of wondering what basically sex pollen is, there's like I mean, it's kind of what it sounds like. There's some kind of pollen or spore that infects the characters of the fan fiction that kind of force them to fuck each other. Like, it like sort of heightens their pheromones basically, and like their libido or whatever. Here's the thing, like, it's in non-con territory, which I don't love, but it's sort of also in the same kind of realm of like, well, it's so ridiculous that it kind of defangs the more problematic aspects of it, on top of the fact that, like, if both characters are kind of undergoing the same circumstance and it's like their heightened libido, there's still an element of consent to it, or at the very least, like, I don't know, it feels like they do have slightly more autonomy in sex pollen, so it's why I still won't consider it problematic. But do I still like it? No. I think I will put it in There's Literally Nothing Else to Read, because like sometimes it can be funny, so like there can be an entertainment value with that, but like, do I actively search out sex pollen fics? Absolutely not. I'm gonna call it sex pollen from now on. I mean, that's what it is. Oh my god, LGBT and werewolf fics, love this. I mean, yeah, it's like the same. It is kind of the same idea. I've written fics like this. OMG, I'm self-cringing. Look, we've all been there. If like anybody who's written like a horny fic, whether ironically or unironically, you do kind of dip into some weird tropes, whether you were aware of like the actual names of them or not, or where they were coming from. I think that's kind of where like people figure out, like, maybe indirectly they kind of figure out their kinks, which again is like kind of like I do have to acknowledge again, the overlap between the queer community, wish fulfillment, and fanfiction. I need to call an Uber to drop me off by a bridge real quick. Oh my god. No. Okay, sharing a bed. So basically, oops, only one bed kind of thing. Like, ooh, we got a hotel room, but there's only one bed. That's in the same category of like huddle for warmth for me. So like, I do enjoy it. I will be putting it all the way at the top. Because I'm trash. No, but like because like it doesn't always have to lead to sex, but like when it does, it's just like I feel like the sexual tension of it is like same thing with Hell for Warmth. That's what's appealing to me. But I think I'm less interested in like the actual sex of smut and more like the build up. So like really good build up is like what will like work for me. Like not in that way necessarily, but like will I be entertained? Yes, absolutely. I hate how much I love this one. Right? It's so good. It can be so good. Like it's so funny and like dumb, but like I know like the revival of iCarly did a version of this trope with Carly and Freddie, which I thought was really funny. Like it was very like it was kind of meta a little bit. Like not entirely meta. Okay, maybe not meta. I'll say fan servicey. They don't do anything, but they do poke fun at it a bit. It is a very fanficky episode. I'm the high school quarterback, and I'm totally cool with sharing a bed with you, my ordinary marching band member. Oh my god, that literally... I have like... It's sad that I have a kind of an experience with that. It didn't lead to anything, but it was kind of like that. I was cool with it because Freddie has gotten me so data lewd. Oh my god. You silly. To quote Dave, you silly. Slow burn? Inject that shit into my bloodstream. I love a good slow burn. Like not so much where like if it becomes like edging somebody for like 6 seasons, then like obviously no, but like again, it's like the anticipation, the sexual tension, and like the romantic pining that like does it for me. So like especially like in a fanfiction sense where like if I'm already shipping these characters and sort of like if I'm going into like the YouTube compilation territory of like quote unquote gay moments between these characters, like I'm in for a fanfic that like is fully on that wave, if that makes any sense. Soulmate AU, that can be cute. I don't know that it's like I know that I said like established relationship I put at the top, but like soulmate AU I think is like you know, I'll put it higher than that. It's just like not something that I actively search for. I don't know, that I feel like I'm like probably contradicting myself a little bit with that, but I don't know. It's like I feel like with like a soulmate AU, it still doesn't go as far as like an established relationship sort of fanfic territory, if that makes any sense. I could be completely wrong, but for me it's like I still like it, but it's not high enough for me. Time loop. Time loop can go all the way to the top. I love time loops. I'm so excited for Russian Doll season 2. I like saw the promo poster they put on Twitter. I'm like I'm strapped in. I'm ready for 420. It's literally coming out like right next to my birthday, which is iconic. It's like one of the best gifts I could ever ask for. That's not entirely true, but I do love that show a lot. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it already. I have no idea what they're gonna do, but I'm excited. I've been waiting for it for so long too. It's like, where did you go? It's been so long, and they had to stop production because of the pandemic, but like they're back, so yes. Unhappy ending, again, I'm gonna put it in there's literally nothing else to read just because it's not something I look for, but I don't hate it. And then very lastly, at least on this list, unrequited love. You can go all the way to the top. I will put it above Mutual Pining, to be honest, but oh my god, I'm such a sucker for unrequited love. But again, it comes from a very sad place of being like very gay. Unrequited love, How I Met Your Mother. I've never seen How I Met Your Mother. I have seen How I Met Your Father though, and it is certainly a show. And Happy Ending Equals Friends, the show. I forget how Friends ends. Is that weird? Or is that kind of like normal? It feels like a show that doesn't have an ending, you know? The writers of time loops always go, how can I make this 24 hours the most tragic? What I love about time loops is it's kind of like in the same territory of like a well-written mystery for me, whereas like if you're really good about slowly adding details in that sort of recontextualize a story, and like any sort of like new developments that are like the exposition is done really well, I will be into it. So like for that reason, I'm like, yes, I am fully okay with time loops in that sense. It kind of scratches the same itch as a good mystery. I got a bad relationship with anything time related. Honestly, black characters always get the short end of the stick. Oh my god, that was it the movie with was it Playboy Cardi or was it a different guy? No, it was Joey Badass. I don't know why I mixed them. I think it's because they both have dollar signs in their names. Wait, no, Playboy Cardi doesn't have an S in it. What am I saying? I'm fried. Season 2 of Umbrella Academy did it with the black girl. I haven't seen season 2 yet, which is really weird because I was super into season 1. I just kind of like stopped. I'm black in the past after defend civil rights. I think that's more time travel than time loop though. I hate time travel as a device personally, but time loops I'm okay with because it's a closed loop and it usually ends with like a set timeline once you escape it, so like you're not dealing with a time paradox. Time loops usually do a lot better. Yeah, because it's like it's a contained time travel. So like I'm okay with time loops. I just don't like time travel, which is really funny because like a lot of the stories that I wrote in high school were time travel related. But like it was never like it was never traveling to a different time period. It was kind of similar to a time loop. It's kind of like world building that 24 hours. Exactly. Okay, so I just realized we're going on 3 hours, so I'm going to quickly jump to the final list. We're going to skip over the ones that I've already done and go from there. So for example, Coffee Bookshop AU, we're not going to touch it because I already covered it. Gender Swap, all the way to the top. I think gender swaps are hilarious. Soulmates, skip. Adult Media Without Plot, skip. Sad Ending, skip. First Time is in the same territory as First Kiss for me, so it's like, it's kind of cute, but I don't love it. BDSM, I'm not into it, but I don't think it's problematic inherently. Like, obviously there can be really bad, really bad, but it's like whatever. Smut depends. I feel weird putting smut in cute, but I kind of have to be in the right mood for it. Skipping angst, skipping enemies to lovers as much as I love enemies to lovers. Fake dating, it's kind of in the same, I mean, it's exactly in the same realm as like fake relationships, so skip. Miscommunication, skip. Slow burn, skip. Time loop, amnesia, crack, college, dark fic. Happy ending, I love. We love a good happy ending. Forced proximity. Okay, so that's like, it's in like the same territory as Huddle for Warmth and Oops, Only One Bed. And so like, especially if it's something like a storm, for example, where they're forced to be together and it's like kind of like a bottle episode kind of vibe, that is my shit. especially if they're characters that would never get into it. If that makes any sense. Friends with benefits, how'd that get here? Oh, we'll get into that. Mutual pining, skip. Friends with benefits. I'm thinking of the Anne Hathaway, Jake Gyllenhaal one. I think if it can be like friends with benefits to lovers, I do like. A toxic one is kind of like whatever. I feel like I have enough of that in my real life historically to like want to be able to read it in fan fiction. But if it can be like the friends with benefits to lovers kind of situation, then like, yeah, I'm into it. Secret relationship. Okay, that is also my shit. I mean, like, as a queer person, I'm gonna be into secret relationship. But I do acknowledge that, like, here's the thing. I don't want to read queer trauma. So like secret relationship is gonna be like I'm like, it's not gonna like, how do I want to put this? It's gonna be homophobia light. Like, nobody is getting gay bashed in this universe. It's just gonna be like, oh my god, like the cheerleaders would be like so shitty to me if they knew I had like this sapphic relationship going on kind of vibe. Like, I don't want it to fetishize queer suffering that much. I kind of just like the secret aspect of it. So like, just want to clarify, that's where I'm at with it. I'm not for I'm not for like the pain of it. And like IRL, I would not fuck with a DL guy anymore. Next question. Sharing clothes, cute as fuck. You are going up here. It's kind of like, I haven't read a lot of fan fiction that's done that explicitly. I just kind of think it's cute as a concept. I mean, like, I do that with anybody I date. It's kind of just endearing because I'm almost always, I mean, like, I'm like 5'3" and like 100 pounds. I am tiny, and I kind of consistently date people who are like much taller than me, who are much bigger than me, because that's my type very clearly. So if we share clothes, I mean, it's, first of all, they're not going to be sharing any of my clothes. It's going to be the other way around. But like, I will gladly accept an oversized hoodie. I still have like an oversized hoodie from like a past relationship of mine that I didn't want to throw out because it's so comfy. I don't know if that's toxic. I personally don't have like attachments to it outside of just it being comfy, but don't shade me for it. I always did giants, so I feel cute at 6 feet in their clothes. Relatable. Marie Kondo would squint at you for sure. What do you mean? Oh, because it doesn't bring but like, it does bring me joy because it's comfy. Whatever, Marie Kondo can like kick rocks if she hates my boyfriend hoodie, or my ex-boyfriend hoodie. Mind your business, Marie Kondo. Or Mary Marie, whatever. Whatever the fuck. Skip, arranged marriage, skip, character death, skip, pregnancy fic. Okay, that's different than baby fic, but I'm still gonna put it in I don't care about it at all. Go away. I don't hate it as much as BD. Well, I don't even hate BDSM. I'm not interested in it. Not to kink shame. It's not coming from a kink shaming place. Domestic fluff. Yes, I do the cooking. Yes, I do the cleaning. I think that can be cute. I think the idea of like, I mean, I think WandaVision is like the first chunk of WandaVision. That kind of counts as like domestic fluff a little bit. And like, I would argue that WandaVision is very heavily fanfiction, or at least fanfiction inspired, like historical AU. I think that counts as that. So, but like, I think it also overlaps with domestic fluff, so we'll go in domestic fluff. WandaVision enters spoof fic. Yeah, that's fair. Like it's a spoof, but like it still counts as like fan fiction. It's like still under that umbrella, but it is, yeah, it is being meta about like TV stuff. Let's keep going. Canon compliant. Wait, did the other one have canon compliant on it? It didn't. It only had canon divergence. Okay, so here's my thing. Canon compliance is still fine. I don't have a problem with canon compliance because I think it shows a love for the source material. If you can be like really accurate with it, then I mean, because like here's the thing, like the extent of my canon convergence usually goes towards making a story more inclusive. I don't usually change more than that if I'm writing fan fiction. So for myself personally, like I write within canon compliance, but but like I said before, I am completely okay with people diverging from the canon and doing something interesting with it. I think that's great. I don't know if I'm necessarily creative enough to diverge from the canon too much. Like I want to keep some of the elements in place. It looks like the foundation. I don't want it to be kind of like unrecognizable, if it makes sense. Big guy, little guy. Actually, no. Okay, age difference. I think it can depend, but I think for the most part, I'm going to put it in super hell because I feel like a lot of it ends up being kind of like statute of limitations territory. So I'm going to put it in problematic. Fast pass to super hell. Dead ass. Big guy, little guy. Okay, so big guy, little guy is literally just me. I know it's not always within a relationship context, or like it's not always like in a romance fic. It's kind of just the idea of like a, you know, like a big guy, little guy sort of. Sometimes it can be like an Abbott and Costello kind of moment, where it's just like that's like sort of the comedic dynamic of it. But I'm gonna choose to view it within the lens of big guy, little guy, because that is every relationship that I'm in, and I think that's cute. I think it's a great, ship dynamic, personally. I think it can be funny. Big guy, little guy, triple S tier. As long as I'm little guy and I get to be the big spoon, I'm 100% invested, period. I like being little spoon personally, but like I think me being big spoon will always kind of look kind of goofy. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. Again, my chair is being so loud tonight. I don't know why. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm sorry if you can. It's being super freaky. Am I just like, did I just put on like a ton of weight or something and I'm gonna break this chair? I'm all about backpack style. Okay, you know what? I can see the appeal with that. Maybe does this make me like spoon verse if I'm like kind of into it then? I've never heard of it called backpack style. I've usually called it like, is it spider monkey? Have you heard of it called that way? Or am I just kind of, am I crazy? Did I fever dream that? Or I don't know. What? That's how I hear it called, is spider monkey. I hope I'm not the only one that knows it, like by that name. I mean, I definitely think backpack is cuter than spider monkey, but so yeah, I will probably. Okay, now I just have like the backpack song stuck in my head though. That's so stupid. Anyway, everyone is gay. A tier. Triple S tier. I'll put it next to gender swap, but it's like an almost even tie. I think everyone being rewritten as gay. Here's the thing. I fully acknowledge. I've gone back and forth on this so much throughout the years, by the way, because Tumblr discourse has sort of like ruined my sense of having my own opinion on anything. I fully acknowledge that reinterpreting characters as gay can promote problematic sort of fetishization of like gay people, or just kind of queer people in general, in that it can sort of, in certain contexts, it can delve into really problematic territory. And I fully get that. I'm kind of in that camp a lot of the time. Um, but I sort of read somewhere that kind of like, well, there's like a couple things that sort of made me rethink it. One of them being that something that is sort of appealing for cishet women. I mean, it doesn't, they don't have to be cis, for kind of like women in general, whether they're het or whether they're lesbians. When it comes to reading smut, that like sort of het relationships in smut tend to be kind of sometimes it can be kind of triggering for people who are either assault victims or just have some level of sexual trauma or anxieties around sex. Just because at the end of the day, a lot of adult media does tend to sort of lead into to R-word territory, like not the slur, but like the other word that I'm pretty sure I can't say. I definitely don't want to like get in trouble for it, but and so I get that like switching the dynamic to it being two men or two women, not that like you can't have like fics that come off as like non-con within gay territory, but I understand why it's sort of like muted for people and sort of more accessible with people who've experienced sexual trauma to see something that has a completely different dynamic behind it due to just like the queer media operating inherently by different conventions, because it's not driven by heteronormativity when it comes to sort of sexual roles all the time, if that makes any sense. Like, again, there is definitely problematic gay fics in like sort of gay dynamics in fiction. I also want to say that I am 100% against everyone is gay fics for real life people, at least real life people who are alive. I think that it does, like, for example, I think like the 1D fanfics, like the Larry Stylinson fanfics, they can be kind of a lot. Like, some of them are funny, but like ultimately, when you think of some of like the K-pop group ones too, if you're looking in like a context of like these people are in either operating in an industry where homosexuality is very taboo or can like sort of affect their working relationships, or they're just kind of generally sort of negatively affected by being perceived as anything other than heterosexual, I think that can create a lot of unnecessary anxieties for real life people to see people sort of writing them into contexts that they're not comfortable with, especially if it's with people they know. Like, I imagine like that's probably super uncomfortable for people. So because of that, I'm like not like into it. That's fair. I'm anti-Robin and Batman shipping. Yeah, well, especially because like a lot of the times like Robin is like, he's like written as somebody who was like adopted by Bruce when he's like a minor, right? So that's kind of grooming. On top of the fact that it is sort of like a surrogate father relationship, so that does kind of like, it does kind of blend a couple of territories. It's like incest light a little bit, and that's definitely not appealing to me. I know other people feel completely differently about Robin Batman shipping. I don't love it. I don't love the implications of it. Locked in a room, that's, so here's the thing, it's similar to like the forced proximity thing that I like, but I feel like Locked in a Room feels I think it has a little bit more potential to be non-con, but so it's why I won't put it all the way at the top, but I'm still operating under the idea that it's not non-con, and it's more of a rewriting the iCarly episode where they're trapped inside the space simulator. Like, that can just be kind of like a fun narrative device in general for like a bottle episode. So, well, I guess locked in a room doesn't always have to be like in a romantic context or like a smutty context now that I think about it. So maybe I do feel comfortable putting it kind of high. Because it doesn't always have to lead to like them fucking or like confessing romantic feelings. It's just sort of putting them in like a weird kind of experience, I guess, or scenario. We have to have sex as consent free. I mean, yeah, like the imagine their captors are just playing Now Kith. Oh my god. I mean, that's technically what like the aliens made us do it trope is. Okay, reader insert. So that's kind of like your name territory. I'm okay with that. I think like even though it kind of takes me out to read like YN every 5 minutes, I understand the appeal. In fact, I have like found the appeal a lot of the time. So like I will put it at real page turner. Maybe here above locked in a room. I feel comfortable putting it there. Again, I sort of like I personally like when a fanfic author is able to sort of either understand the voice of the character, like the pre-existing character who's going to be the narrator so well that it almost feels like it could have been written by the creators of the source material. Like, I think that's really cool. Or for you to create an OC that has like their own individualized personality that like a YN character wouldn't be able to fulfill, I guess, because you're really supposed to be like a neutral insert character. Then like I think that's kind of different. Oops, only one bed. We covered that already with like the single bed. Roommates AU. Okay, so I don't know if you've read any of the. Well, here's the thing, because like the adventures are like kind of roommates with each other. So I feel like that kind of counts for like any of like the sorts of like the fanfics are like putting like the Avengers in like a small apartment in New York City, and like they're sometimes the fictions have them with superpowers and some of them just have them as like non-powered people. That's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, to be honest. So I'll put that kind of high. And they were roommates. Yeah. I don't know. I appreciate roommates AU. I might put that kind of high, to be honest, because I think you can do really fun stuff with it. You know, I'm willing to put it up that high, to be honest. Because like it's one that's really character focused, and I really like stories that focus on that really well. Maybe a little bit more than narrative. As much as I love a good sort of overarching plot, I'm kind of more interested in seeing how characters interact with each other. So, okay, so this one's controversial. So, we're not gay, we just love each other. Is pretty broad. So to give you sort of the rundown of it, because it's a little bit complicated. So some people argue that it's not inherently bisexual or bisexuality, like erasure. And the idea, so in some contexts, so basically it's the idea that two canonically straight people have like a chance encounter, or just where like they like either experiment sort of in a same-sex manner, or like in like a sexual context, or they enter like a romantic relationship that they don't perceive as romantic, but everybody else does, including the reader. And I have really mixed feelings about it. I think because it's so broad and people have so many different definitions of it, it's kind of, I understand the controversy around it. Personally, I feel like I would rather read a story where like people are acknowledging, if they are sort of written as canonically straight in like the source material, I think the idea of them at least acknowledging the the gay attraction between them is kind of important. Also, I should probably clarify, this does not include bromances. That's what I thought of at first when I read it, but when I looked into it more, I'm just like, okay, this runs the risk of like bi erasure, and I don't love it. I find this one interesting because it's almost entirely with male characters. Yeah, the female to female ones end in tragedy. I mean, yeah, because it's bury your gays. Yeah, so I don't know. For me, it really depends. I kind of overall look at it unfavorably, but I don't. It's kind of on the low end of depends. I'll say that. Like I wouldn't put it in there's literally nothing else to read, because I think there is the opportunity for it to be done well. Like if it's like, here's the thing, if it's a thing where I think in the scenario where they're so stupid that they don't realize they're constantly going on dates, and like that holding hands like is not like a super heterosexual thing for them to do, then like it can be kind of funny and sort of like cute in like an oddball comedy kind of way. But if it's like in a sort of like holding hands in a hot tub with like no pants on, but like it's not gay kind of vibe, then like I think that's maybe a little stupid. Don't know they're dating? Okay, so this is more explicitly what I was talking about. I think don't know they're dating is kind of cute. I'll put it kind of high. Yeah, I can comfortably put don't know they're dating there, because like I think any fiction where like they're like kind of stupid or just like out of touch, and they're, yeah, exactly, like there's a touch of innocence to it when they write it. I think that can be kind of fun. I think that kind of like goes into fluff territory a bit for me, so that's why like I do have to put it kind of high. You know what, I might have do I put it into like S+ too? You know what, fuck it. I think it's cute enough to put it in S+. I'll put it with like, I'll let it hold hands with secret relationship. But yeah, like a relationship that's like apparent to literally everybody else but them is like, it's the kind of like dramatic irony that I think is kind of funny, but like also kind of wholesome, or at least it can be wholesome. I actually like this one in the straight guy and gay guy are in a complex platonic relationship. What do you mean? Like as in like a separate trope entirely, or is like attached to the secret relationship trope, or is in like the love each other but not gay kind of thing? Because I don't think that's technically under the umbrella of that. If it is though, then like I will say I'm like okay with it, because like I do think it's important for, I mean, we love allyship. Like they're friends, but their friendship is placed in doing things that only a significant other. Oh, okay. So like kind of like a more like a one step up from a bromance. More like a best friends fic. Yeah, you know, I like a good bestie fic. Especially when like when I think of like straight guys that are sort of afraid to show affection with each other, but then put it on top of like afraid to show affection, like platonic affection with like a gay friend, and just being completely comfortable in like their sexualities and like their sense of boundaries. Like I think when that's like, it feels so rare in real life, being able to have that kind of like wish fulfillment in a story is nice. So like I agree. I think that's pretty high. I wish that was on the list. I got a straight friend that texts me, "How are you doing, King?" Oh my god. Oh my god. I have some straight friends that are kind of like that too, to be honest. Alright, we're getting down there. creature fic. So a creature fic is I mean, it's kind of like what it says. It is like one of the characters is like a supernatural or unnatural being. Sometimes it can be turning a character into a creature. So for example, like turning Archie into a werewolf. I think that's actually like a plot in like one of the Archie After Dark comics. I think that can be fun. There's like a lot you can do with it. So I will put it in real page turner. It's like an element of like, especially if it breaks canon, like if it's like in a non-supernatural world and this is the one supernatural element you add to it, I think that can be kind of tasteful. I can see that working for me. Fuck or die, we have that with bang or die. So a slash fic. So a slash fic, here's the thing. It's just like a ship, but it tends to be more in line with shipping two men. So it's like kind of more of like a gay vibe. Slash fic, the most problematic. I think it can be, but I don't know that it has the propensity to be super problematic, unless we're thinking of different types of slash fics. Maybe I just haven't read a super problematic one. Actually, that's not true. I think like the slash fics that involve real people, yeah, that sucks. I don't know. I think I can maybe put it kind of in either low tier cute or in depends. Because again, it is sort of like on one hand, I know that I put everyone is gay pretty high, so like inherently like poo-pooing on a slash fic is like maybe like hypocritical or paradoxical, I guess, but I don't know. I think maybe like the history of slash fics does make me feel a little conflicted. Oh, I'm thinking of I'm in an abusive relationship with a guy who's trying to Stockholm syndrome me. Oh yeah, no, that's not what a slash fic is. That's a slasher fic. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'll put slash fic in cute, I think. Because again, it's kind of the main historical context that people are talking about when it comes to a slash fic is like Kirk and Spock. And some people got really weird with it. Even though it's like, I acknowledge it as like a classic ship and I overall stan it, some people got really weird. So I don't know if that's like maybe unfair for me to like let the historical context of slash fic affect the modern context that like has very much deviated from that. I don't know. It's like I do ship those characters, but like the context of like the Kirk and Spock thing. If you're like so anyone who's like watching this in the future who doesn't know the context of it, if you're really bored, I would definitely I think it's an interesting bit of history, especially because it's like sort of it's the much earlier days of fanfiction. This is when like honestly the history of slash fics is sort of when like it's kind of like the early days of cease and desists. Not necessarily with Kirk and Spock, but like some of the other ones. Like this is when like some of the legality of fanfiction began to be brought into question, which I think is personally kind of silly that it ever became an issue, but there's an element of playing with my action figures element to this. I mean, yeah, it's literally making your Ken dolls kiss. Like making G.I. Joe and like Ken make out. Which can be a vibe, don't get me wrong. Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy. Yeah, basically. Kid fic. Okay, so I will say a kid fic is different than a baby fic for me. That being said, though, the example I just thought of is like a bad example of it, because it is like because in the title it says Baby Looney Tunes. I don't know if anybody remembers that show. That was kind of like I don't know why I was so into that show, outside of maybe like the nostalgia aspect of like, I think maybe I look back on it fondly because that was like the show that was always on during a sick day. So I just kind of like, it's like a positive memory of like, this is a show that's on when I'm like home alone on like, because I like threw up or whatever. So it's like the silver lining of like a very bad childhood experience. Baby Looney Tunes was pretty nostalgically adorable, and then there's the other one. Yeah. So I'll put kid fic and cute. I think reimagining characters as kids can be cute. Oh, okay. So this is another one that has a controversial history. So with mpreg, historically, and kind of overwhelmingly, the idea of it is a usually cis het, male character somehow becomes pregnant. And here's the thing. I want to make it clear that when I say that I don't love the logistics of this, I want to remind everybody that the history of this trope, like, is that the character is like canonically cis, or at least like within the story they are cis. I fully acknowledge that some men have wombs, not all men have like dicks, and like you are valid. So there are like trans men who like might have like a pregnancy experience. So that's not what I'm referring to when I talk about mpreg. I'm talking about, in these fictions, it is the idea of like a cis het dude suddenly becoming pregnant out of supernatural circumstances. And I'm just kind of like, it makes me think of the SNL sketch with like Chadwick Boseman, where the idea of like how that child would be birthed. I can't really get into it because I don't think that's like safe for me to talk about. But it's the logistics of like the birth are very gross and uncomfortable. And I don't know if like all mpregs sort of go through like the actual birth process, or if it's just sort of like it's supposed to be like a comfy pregnancy fic. But I think because it sort of it kind of skirts like the territory of like potential trans erasure, or at least like this, because this could be like because like a trans man experiencing a pregnancy can be like a very traumatizing and like dysphoric experience, and I don't want anybody to feel like an mpreg story might be making light of that, because again, like the conceit of an mpreg is that the person who is pregnant is cis and is sort of an inherently outlandish situation. So I don't know, but like at the same time, you bring up a good example, like it's like Lil Nas X with like when he birthed like his album. I do think it's like really funny. So I think I will put it in, because it's like sort of in the outlandish territory, but I don't know that it's like trash, and I can't make fully the case that it's like inherently, okay, maybe it's a little bit problematic. But do I feel like I can put it in super hell when a lot of the times it's sort of it's not like intentionally attacking trans men, and it's not intentionally sort of trying to erase them. It can either just sort of like unintentionally do it, or it just it's like makes a stance ahead of time, or a disclaimer being like, hey, this is just supposed to be kind of goofy, it's not meant to like like we're not getting that deep with it. Then that's like a whole other thing. But I perfectly understand why there are lots of people in the queer community that take issue with this type of like the genre of fanfiction. I kind of feel like it's not really my place to sort of police the opinions of a community I'm not like explicitly a part of. Drunken confessions we already talked about. Childhood friends. I'm putting it all the way up here. I think it's very cute, especially if it's like sort of goes into mutual pining territory. Like here's the thing, like as an anime trope it can be kind of annoying, especially if like the love triangle is like the child, like the whiny childhood friend, and then like sort of the more sex positive or kind of just sexualized in general like other love interest sort of competing against each other. Then like yeah, that can be kind of annoying, but like I'm not perceiving that when I put it high up. I think sort of reimagining certain characters as childhood friends can be, even if it's like not in a romantic context, can be kind of cute. It's controversial in that pregnancy, I think, kind of period in reference to female biology. I don't know that I've ever read a period fic, but I don't doubt that it exists. But yes, I can see the problems that kind of like can arise in it. Granted, I should also throw out that like, yes, I am aware that you do not have to have a womb or be a cis woman to have a period. Bully, fast pass to super hell. That is like the bad version of enemies to lovers. We do not stand it. Hey, I'm gonna double check to make sure I didn't like pass anything, but I think that's all of it. I did not think it was gonna take. Holy shit, I didn't realize the uptime was almost 4 hours. This is gonna take forever to upload. Bullyfic was like sex education. Don't even get me started on that. I hated that so much. Like when they put Eric with Adam. Like I'm glad that relationship like crashes and burns, but I don't necessarily love that it's like it falls apart due to Eric being the bad guy in it. I really think it sort of should have been like realistically I feel like it would have been better for I mean I don't know, I feel like they're a little bit too sympathetic for Adam when he was literally like tormenting Eric for years. I don't know, I don't really like that. I tried to focus on his crotch for the most part of that relationship if I'm honest. Oh my god. I'm bringing out the spray bottle for you right now. Okay, we're gonna go back to just chatting. I mean, we've been in just chatting this entire time. I don't know why I said that. I still have some complaints about how they wrote Eric. 100%. I think, I feel confused, like, kind of conflicted when people sort of list him as, like, really positive queer representation, because I'm just like, I don't know, like, I mean, like, on one hand, I'm like, yes, we should allow queer characters to be messy and to make mistakes, but, like, he's also the only one that we see explicitly get bullied, and he, like, kind of overlooks that by entering a relationship with that bully. Like, it feels off. On top of the fact that I'm just like, I don't know, he does kind of like... some people say he subverts the gay black friend, like the token gay black friends trope, but I'm like, does he? I think the only thing that like sort of subverts the trend is I mean, I guess it's just he gets to have screen time. He's not just a supporting character. And I feel like that, like, I mean, I guess the bar is in hell, so I guess giving like a gay black character more screen time in a more significant role in a show is like, I guess the bar is in hell. So like I guess it counts as progress and subverting in that way, but like ideally, I mean, like there's like shows that like have already done that and have been doing that for years. They've been like centering around like queer black characters, you know. So to me it feels like a little bit like, it feels kind of a little bit too much like patting yourself on the back for being progressive. I think the subversion is that they expand his narrative more. Like they give him stuff to do, but is that as much as we're gonna accept, or can we like ask? I think it's fair for us to ask for more. I appreciate that they tried to write a black gay femme character, but I think they kind of hit on some obvious mistakes with Eric. I think they accidentally overstepped into a toxic trope where he got assaulted while dressed as a woman. That made me so uncomfortable, and the fact that there in some, I mean, here's the thing, maybe I misinterpreted it, but I felt like they tried to paint Eric as the more unreasonable person when he like lashed out at Otis for it, but like no, Otis was 100% in the wrong. Like, can he be blamed for like the people who like beat him up? Not necessarily, but like because like he wasn't the one that like ordered them to like beat the shit out of like his friend, like obviously, but and like I don't want to like I know that's like kind of like a slippery slope when I say this, but like it was like this did happen because he was like, he neglected his friend, and like he knew the risks of like sending somebody into like a place alone and like kind of essentially just ditching them and forcing them to like walk home alone, like in general. Like that's just like that's a shitty friend thing to do. I don't know how Eric was able to like forgive him for that. I don't even know why they're like, I don't know why they're still friends, to be honest. It was a logical narrative, but it felt like they wrote it from Otis's perspective. Yeah, they kind of wrote it less about Eric being abused and more about Otis being self-centered. I mean, yes, but I still don't love it. I think because of that like centering that kind of like traumatic narrative around the like a character that is like supposed to be learning a lesson from it, like does it like kind of not put it in the territory of like, oh, I'm my cool black friend is teaching me about like a topic that I don't understand about, and he's helping me learn a thing, and that's sort of treating a marginalized character as like sort of like a token learning and like utilitarian device. That's kind of what it made me, that's kind of how it made me feel like it. It was less about Eric being abused and more about Otis being a good ally, which was kind of icky. I mean, yeah, it's like, it's making that like about him. At least that's how I kind of felt about it, and I didn't love it. I don't know, that show is kind of like a mess at this point. Like, I'll be honest, season 3 made me angry to watch. Like, I think like the only like the saving grace for it is like at least it gave like it gave some of the other characters something to do. It completely ditched the main cast. I feel like, which like, because I don't like Otis, I was kind of okay with it, and I did like that they had like they introduced like a non-binary, actually 2 non-binary characters, and I think one of them trans femme. I don't remember. Not trans femme, trans mask. I thought they did a decent job with me. I mean, yeah, like to be honest, like Maeve is kind of consistently a better kind of protagonist for me. But I understand that like it's kind of difficult for her to exist without Otis being kind of a glue character. Otis's contribution to the plot was talking about sexual anxiety, which I appreciate, but it got less important over time. I mean, yeah, because then doesn't he become like a sex addict? But like they don't do anything with it. If anything, it kind of gets rewarded because he gets a romantic relationship out of it. I think at the very least they could have like, I mean, maybe this kind of stigmatizes the territory, so this could be like actually not a good take for me to say, but if there was like a cheating narrative, like where he was like, I don't know, his like libido sort of led to like something to do really shitty, then like I that would kind of count as doing something with it for me. But again, it kind of comes down to like he has to learn something from it. It does kind of have to be treated a little bit more seriously, because I know like the sex addiction kind of gets memed on a lot, but like I do think I do think it's real personally, and I think I think you can be addicted to anything, to be honest. And I think when I think of how many people can be hurt in this specific instance, then like to me that qualifies it as like something important enough to talk about in a more serious sense. And they kind of just mostly touched on it as like a gag that they dropped, because they're just like, oh haha, this character that couldn't even like jerk off in the beginning of the show becomes like a sex addict. Like haha, that's like so ironic. And it's just like, okay, but are you gonna do anything with it? Or because otherwise it does feel like you're trivializing it a bit. Maeve was my queen by the end because she gets to be messy and learn, and she's pretty competent with the other characters. I mean, yeah, like I think her fight with Amy, like if that happened with like Otis and Eric, which I guess like in some ways it did, it would be really annoying. But they handled like Maeve and Amy's sort of fight like pretty well in my opinion. Like Maeve was probably the strongest part of that season. Same in the same way that she was the strongest part about season 2. And I do like that she doesn't drop the study abroad thing for Otis. I'm interested to see how this translates into the next season though, because I know the school gets like closed down, right? It's weird how many softballs Otis gets thrown. As the most knowledgeable about sexual intelligence, it's weird he got so little development. I mean, yeah, like I get that there's like a little bit of like commentary to be made about like, you know, somebody who gives out good advice isn't always the best at taking his own advice. Like it's like, you know, you're not practicing what you preach, and there's like a level of irony and growth that has to happen with that. But like, you've done it for 3 seasons straight. Like this has become like a less compelling coming of age narrative because he's not learning. Or maybe I should say he develops in a way that doesn't fit the show. I mean, yeah. Like I can understand him being like sort of messy in season 2, but he should have at least started growing in season 3, and I feel like he got worse. Like developing a relationship with the sex positive mom or a sexually toxic dad. I mean, yeah, like so my other thing is like, as much as I totally stan writing complicated women that are allowed to make mistakes, I feel like watching his mom's pregnancy arc was really frustrating in season 3. Like that was one of the more frustrating aspects of the show because I hated Jakob. I feel like his conclusion by the end of season 3 was the development for season 1. I mean, yeah, like, I feel like they didn't learn anything new. Also, Jakob being a guy that is, like, staunchly against, like, voting was really dumb. I love the mom, though. She's so a queen. Yeah, like, even though she was making, like, cringe decisions, I could still forgive her for the most part because she was the character that was showing up the most, especially with like Amy's arc in season 3 about like recovering from sexual trauma. Like I think it was good that she really, I mean, like she was probably the best qualified person to sort of like counsel her through that, and I like how they handled it because it's like it is something that that can affect your romantic and sexual relationships moving forward. It's not something you can like easily get over. So I like that is probably one of the better aspects of the show. It feels like the side characters end up getting like the better arcs in the show than like Otis. I'm shocked the writers didn't notice the mom was the fan favorite and then put her in a relationship with that last guy in season 3. It seemed like we would very obviously be in her favor over his. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I could get into like a whole rant about sex ed, to be honest. But it's like 1:30 here almost. I didn't mean to stream for this long. It's been a very fun, like this has been like a really good stream. I think this is probably like the most fun stream I've had since like the Animal Crossing one, but I really need to like I really need to call it. Um but this was really fun. I really loved having your input on this whole thing. It's always nice when I actually have somebody in the chat to like bounce off of. Because when it's a stream that's like really quiet, I don't know, I feel like I'm trying extra hard to be engaging, and sometimes that doesn't always work. So let's see. I don't know if anybody's live right now that I want to raid. So maybe I just... Oh, you know what? My friend Christian is streaming. Okay, maybe we can raid him. No problem. I enjoy holding people hostage with my scatterbrain thoughts. Honestly, like, we are sharing... It feels like we're sharing the same brain cell that is, like, also just bouncing around at 1,000,000 miles per hour, so I appreciate that. So, thanks for coming... Thanks for everybody who came through. And listen to me talk about about fanfiction for 4 hours. Yeah, this is like to sort of like, you know, do my closing thoughts before I hop off and then like raid my friend. I just want to say that like, as much as I will like talk shit about fanfiction from every now and then, I ultimately love it. I think it's I think fanfiction is really important. I will always encourage it. I think creators that, like showrunners or writers that actively try to shut down the medium are stupid. I'm not afraid to call them stupid. I think it's like, it's free press, it's free audience engagement. It shows that your fan base is very passionate about what you do. I mean, like, if it's like a problematic fic, then like, yeah, I understand like denouncing it, but like putting a moratorium on fanfiction in general of like your work, I think is inherently hypocritical, to be honest, because like at the end of the day, like you have your own influences too. Like you grew up really loving a book series, and or you've been influenced by work in the past and you can find echoes of it in your own work. It might not be as explicit as fanfiction is, where it is like directly referencing the source material, but you're still borrowing from some source material to some extent. And because of that, I feel like when you shut down people that are honestly, it's a really good exercise to learn how to write. And it's getting young people to be creative. It's getting young people to write. I think that's so important. I don't know. It's something I'm really passionate about personally. Even if I don't write a lot of fan fiction anymore, I'm 100% here for, I mean, young people to, I say young people as if I'm like a sage, like wise adult. I'm like turning like 25 in like 2 weeks. Like I need to chill out. But like, I don't know. I think there are worse like interests to like get into in high school, in middle school, to be honest. I mean, making fun of fan fiction is like making fun of drag queens or art. Like, why not? Yeah, like at the end of the day, anything that that helps people express themselves in whatever way is important. Well, I mean, as long as it's like legal and not like not terrible. Like if you're stringing up like dead animals and that's like your art form, like, you know, I will denounce that. But otherwise, like if you're writing fan fiction, you're doing fan art, you're interacting with medium that you enjoy, like I'm here for it. I think it's something that I really envied for a lot of my friends, was that I didn't really feel like I was in any major fandoms until like kind of late in high school. And I really think being attached to something a little bit more intensely in middle school and high school probably would have made me a little bit more well-rounded, I guess, because I was so focused on school. I was focused on Boy Scouts. I was focused on sort of my musical interests that I didn't really get to have kind of like stupid fun interests or hobbies that didn't directly had to lead into any marketable skill. I mean, not that writing isn't a marketable skill, because it totally is. But I don't know. I will actively encourage people to express themselves in a safe way, especially young people that are figuring themselves out. You know, middle school is the time to get your cringe out. So if that is just when you decide to write a ton of fan fiction, then like go for it. I know the internet is forever, but we have screen names, so it's fine. You don't have to directly link yourself to it. Just know that that if it becomes super popular, that one, Wattpad will sell the rights to your story without your permission, because that's in the terms of service. Is that you don't own anything you make, which I think is really, like, on one hand, like, I get it, because like if you're writing fan fiction, then like, yeah, the story is technically does not belong to you because of the source material, but like I would argue that it's transformative work, and because of that, that's something I don't think it's fair for Wattpad to sort of reinterpret and sell without someone's permission. I think that's kind of shitty. I think most people would agree with that. But I get that it's like a tricky subject with copyright. And again, it is in the website's terms of service, so like people, well, granted, obviously not everybody reads the terms of service. It is a long-ass document. But I'll leave that as a warning to anybody who wants to get into writing fan fiction, that Wattpad is like not the greatest place to do it. But I'll say that as kind of my finishing thoughts with it. Just as like a reminder for if you're watching this in the future, because I will upload this eventually. It's gonna take forever because it's a very long video. But I do stream this on Twitch from, I say from, as if like I have a set schedule. I do stream on Twitch. I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. That will be changing for the next couple of weeks, but if you're watching this in the distant future, like, that doesn't matter. We'll see where I land on the Monday playlists after this weekend. I still have to figure out how I'm gonna do that. I think it'll be even better if I can like set up a chat command for it. But I will always, I mean, like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I will definitely be doing some YouTube tutorials, I bet. Try to get some sleep. You broke 4 hours. I usually don't like stream longer than 2.5 hours. I just kind of got really into this and lost track of time. I'm gonna blame you. I'm just kidding. It's whatever. I'm forgiveness, not permission kind of girl. Yeah. With that being said, I'll catch y'all later. Yas, guilty queen. Oh my gosh, shut up. I hate you. Alright, but I'll catch y'all next time, which will be Monday. I should be streaming Monday. I believe I don't have any plans otherwise. I think so my two options for I keep extending this outro. I really should stop. But so I know The Ultimatum just came out. That's like a reality show I've been looking forward to. I also have not started Moon Knight yet. I'm trying to decide whether I want to sort of talk about that in real time, or if I want to just do a stream after the season finale airs. So I'm still deciding on that. I definitely probably won't do it on Monday. But I guess maybe I'll wait, because like I thought I was going to do that with Bridgerton too, and I just straight up didn't like it. So I kind of like I went on for a couple of streams being like, oh yeah, like the next week's gonna be Bridgerton week, and like, you know, I'm gonna recap season 1, and then I'm gonna like follow season 2, and it'll be great. And I'm just like, I'm not feeling this. I mean, that's a whole other discussion that I talked about a couple streams ago, so we won't get into it. I'll catch y'all later. I'm going to sleep because my throat is dead, so I'm going to be taking a cough drop and passing the fuck out. Bye.